Here's a healthy thank you to the folks at Audible for sponsoring this show today and offering a special deal for all of you readers, book lovers, and book listeners out there. Play your Audible books on almost any device. Start your addiction now with a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial. Visit audiblepodcast.com/chat to get the deal. Let me repeat that, okay? audiblepodcast.com/CHAT. Enjoy. Welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. We're going to start things off this St. Paddy's Day with my new favorite Irish joke. So Callahan is driving in his car. He's in New York. He's in Manhattan, and he's racing to his wife, who's been taken to the hospital. She's been rushed to the hospital to give birth to the first child, and he's rushing through town. And he gets to the hospital. And there's no place to park, and he's going mad. He can't find a place, and he's absolutely losing his bird. So he's driving around and panic, yelling and screaming, and finally gives up and he says, "Lord, please, please, Lord, I'm not a praying man, but I'm praying to you now. Please, please, if you give me a place to park, I swear I'll never drink again. I'll never go near the stuff. And I'll go to church every Sunday for the rest of my life. Please, please, Lord, if you just do this for me, one parking space." Just then, magically, a car pulls out right in front of him, opening up a beautiful parking space right in front. And Callahan says, "Never mind, Lord, just opened up." Yes, indeed. Happy St. Paddy's Day for those of you joining us live here on the YouTube. Thank you, and those of you catching us after the fact. What the fuck? You were busy? It's St. Paddy's Sunday. How could you have not? Are there 3 people watching? What's happening? Anybody? I'm unbelievably excited about our show today. What a coup, what a score, and happenstance I will give most of the credit to, and then generosity on the other side of it. If you're watching us live on the YouTube, tell everyone you've ever met to subscribe. We're trying to, for the first time, we'll be 4 years old March 22nd, by the way, this show.
We don't look a day over 3.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But we've never pushed for a YouTube present subscription body. We'd like you to help us. You have been a part of this show from day one, almost 4 years ago, and we can't thank you enough for all your involvement in the show. But I'm coming to you one more time again. Please, a parking space. That's all I'm asking. Tell everyone you've ever met to subscribe and to watch us when they can and check out past videos, one of which I would offer up as an example. It's a little clip where Hank Azaria goes after our very own Sam Levine for his poker antics, and the clip, I believe, is called Poker Rabbi.
The Poker Rabbi.
Yeah. Hank and Sam will be at my table Tuesday night. I will fill you in on the goings-on post that game. St. Paddy's kicked off last night for some of us, the Saturday Eve.
Or if you're Jason McIntyre, 2 p.m. yesterday.
Still happening. 2 p.m. yesterday, and still.
Yep.
McDrunkle. Sammy.
Yeah, buddy.
Turned 31.
Oh.
They said it wouldn't last. And there was
I believe me, I'm the most surprised of all of us.
Right. And may I say,
yeah,
you have a tremendous draw. It's a nice turnout.
It was a solid turnout.
I always look forward to his parties because it's a great mishmash of like all of our friends.
Yeah, or your new sitcom, My Favorite Jews.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I Instagrammed that photo.
Did you?
What about men in their 50s?
Well,
I thought we were developing that.
That's you mean Fetterman on your show.
Okay.
Men in their 50s.
Which will be my new favorite show.
Sammy's 31, the star of Men in their 50s. Anything else, kids? Nope.
I got nothing. I want to get to our guests, man.
All right.
Chomping at the bit
Stop
here.
yelling, because now it's getting weird.
All right.
You've contributed with our theme song, questions for the guest. We take them live. I've got a few queued up now. If you want to lob up a question from the live audience, Jamie is at the helm in the chatus roomus on the YouTube.
That's Latin.
That's not Latin.
That's a tip of the hat to the new Pope.
I save Latin. What did you ever do?
Doesn't help when we're doing the buffering game.
Nope.
If somebody talks.
Well, I can't see what's going on. I don't have a monitor.
That's all right.
I have to quote things, otherwise my existence is irrelevant.
Why be a nudnik? Film your very own Larry King game. Win yourself a T-shirt. Speaking of which, did I mention there's merch at the Kevin Bullock Chat Show site? Go there, you fuckers.
You don't say.
Or if you're on your way to Amazon for something else, stop at our site first, main page banner, click on it, takes you right to the main page of Amazon, and we just made 1.2 cents.
It keeps going up when in
So-
reality it's actually going down.
No, it's not.
We get 1/19 of a penny when someone does.
If you want to support the show, I'm just saying that's the way to do it. Show number 166, let's get to it. Work has begun on the television pilot Beverly Hills Cop, which you've heard me speak of. Exec produced by former guest of this show, Sean Ryan. He, the creator showrunner of the brilliant TV program, The Shield, and many more, all of which you've heard me speak about prior, as I mentioned, as well as my excitement that my guest today is directing said pilot. So, I will introduce my guest by lobbing this first question. This pilot being our first working opportunity,
Yes,
Barry, do you think you'll regret your previous tireless efforts to stop this union of unforgettable talent from this inevitable, dare I say, historical creative deathmatch?
Fuck me.
Are you referring to you and me?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, well, you know what? We got off to a bad start. As you know, I gave you a very specific method of direction.
Right.
We rehearsed the very first day. You know, Kevin plays sort of an uptight lawyer.
As it were?
As it were, on our show. And he felt in the very first moment of rehearsal that he was going to speak slowly and imperiously in a way that made me very nervous.
Right.
So when we got done with the very first just reading of the pages, I said, you know, Kevin, you've got to be like way faster. We did it again. And I realized, because Kevin was going to be someone who would like to talk to me, you know, and it's not something I really enjoy doing on the set, that our sort of sign language for you needing to talk faster was just me going like that. And that would mean to you, oh, I get it, do it faster.
Right.
You know, I worked with Jeff Daniels on a movie, RV, and his character's name was Travis.
Right.
And whenever Jeff was off, I would just say to Jeff, my direction to him was, Jeff, now do one like as if you were Travis. And he'd go, got it, and the next take, he was perfectly Travis. So I find that, I feel that actors need very little information from directors. If you've done rehearsal and you know your character, and basically all a director should have to ever say to an actor is faster and flatter.
Yeah.
As long as you're fast and flat, it takes the acting out of the performance, which I find really refreshing.
And are you able, or does it cross your mind, to be inside that awful, fucked up energy source that is the actor's mind
No.
when receiving direction like faster and flatter?
No. I'll tell you a slightly longer story.
Oh, please.
I directed Men in Black 3, and one of my favorite characters in the show was a character named Griffin, who was a quantum mechanic. He could see all past, all futures, all presents, and all possibilities throughout the world instantly.
Right.
And we had this wonderful actor named Michael Stuhlbarg, who was lovely and brilliant at the end of the day, but every day he would talk way too slowly. And he had been brilliant in A Serious Man, directed by Joel and Ethan Coen. And Joel and Ethan Coen called me when they heard I had hired Michael and said, Michael is great, he talks way too fucking slow.
And they also know this about you.
And they know this about me.
That's probably what
Yes.
prompted their call.
Well, they believe a similar method of, I think so, but they pan too much, but that's another story. So every day I say, Michael, you just got to do it faster. And it wasn't coming any faster. Michael, you got to do it faster. And finally, one day I said to him, about a week into shooting, hey, Michael, you know you're a quantum mechanic? And he said, yes, I am. And I said, so you know that means that you can see all possible presents, past, futures, every possibility that could ever exist in your head at that moment. And he says, yes, I can. And I said, well, you see, the whole idea is Griffin knows if he doesn't talk incredibly quickly, whatever he's talking about, that version of reality could change. Because someone might get off a bus. So he talks incredibly quickly because he knows if he doesn't, whatever he's talking about, that might not be the version that happens. And he said, of course. And from then on, he talked incredibly quickly. And my attitude was not, well, I got Michael to talk faster. My attitude was, all I should have had to say is talk faster, which I did for a week, and let Michael fucking figure out why he needed to talk faster. So no, in no way do I feel it's my responsibility to help the actors to figure out why.
That's exciting.
I know that you should talk fast. You do the work.
Yeah.
Don't make me do it.
How dare the actor suggest that they might benefit from your insight as to why the actor?
The more I talk, the more I will just confuse you.
Well, let's get to that. Yesterday was Jerry Lewis's 87th birthday. Mm-hmm. Unbelievably exciting. I'm going to veer from the research and ask you for any take, insight, or feeling about what some of us consider to be a member of Mount Rushmore. Maybe perhaps just as a filmmaker.
Well, I think he was actually a brilliant director. Yeah. I mean, the stuff he did, he sort of, there's a school of comedy where, especially in the old days, where you let the comedy play out in the scene. What's happened to a lot of modern comedies is you have a lot of writers who become directors, and they love like the free flow and the ad lib, and they'll put up a whole bunch of cameras and then figure out the structure and the scene in post-production. Also, they don't pace the scene up fast enough, and they rely, therefore, editorially on creating the comedy. I believe, as Jerry Lewis did, as Preston Sturges did, as Howard Hawks did in Bringing Up Baby and His Girl Friday. And Kubrick, my favorite movie ever made, Dr. Strangelove. You let the comedy play out in the scene. The best stuff in Strangelove is this two-shot where Sterling Hayden in the background shooting, and Peter Sellers in the foreground talking about precious bodily fluids. And there's no cutting. It plays out in a two-shot. And what's great about that is you see action and reaction in the same shot. Right. You don't cut to a reaction, because then that's saying to the audience, I'm telling you what's funny. What I love is to make the audience think they found the comedy. I didn't tell them where it was. So Jerry Lewis, like, is it the Bellboy where he sets up the chairs in this gigantic ballroom?
Yes.
There's no cuts. He comes in, he puts down one chair, he moves it an inch, he goes back, wait, no, it's pure, brilliant, silent comedy.
Yeah.
And when comedy, for me, when comedy is working, it's Kubrick, Hawks, Sturges. There's a scene in the first Men in Black where Tommy Lee Jones is interviewing an alien in the foreground, and Will Smith is trying to help an alien give birth to her baby. Will is being thrown around by this tentacle over a car, through a car, screaming. I never cut in. It plays out as a master. And what's funny is the audience, and by the way, you're learning important information in the foreground. Tommy is, checking out this cop to alien kind of moment.
Exposition.
Yeah. There's like story information about everyone trying to get off the planet, and we don't know why. Don't tell the audience where it's funny, but that requires, Kevin,
yes,
that the actors speak with a certain pace and energy.
Flat and quick?
Flat and quick.
Yeah.
Not fast, not quick, fast.
Ah.
Yeah.
Subtle difference.
Yeah. So I loved his work, especially as a director.
Yeah.
Jerry.
Yeah. Innovative, too. And there, was it his need for instant gratification as a performer, or his filmmaking insight that created video assist?
Video assist.
Yeah.
Because he needed to both, since he was both directing and being in the scene, he wanted to see what he had done as an actor, and he was the one who created the video tap so he could watch some version of playback while he was doing these scenes. I want to just comment on your opening joke, if I may.
Please.
Because although not a believer in God, personally, I feel that the Old Testament Jewish God is sort of insecure, a tester, mean, and someone who I would never sort of embrace except culturally.
You're right.
But I will say that one of the many times I was passing a kidney stone, it was on the set of Raising Arizona, and they were sort of rushing me to the hospital. But of course, being rushed in Scottsdale, where there are a lot of old people that you can't see that they're there because they're lower than the top of the seat, the ambulance person refused to put on the ambulance light, so I was in profound pain. And as I was going to the hospital, I was making a deal with God. God, if you only let me get to the hospital so I can get a shot of morphine and reduce this pain, you can have my mother. But God knew that that was not even a sacrifice
For you.
So for me. So I said, okay, you can have my dad. About 4 blocks later, take Dad too. Nothing. And I swear to God, by the time we got to the hospital, Sweetie, my wife, had no arms and no legs. Got to the hospital.
Boxing Sweetie.
Yeah, no, but she's adorable from the face up.
Yeah.
In any case. So, and then I got my morphine and I was fine. And the next day they had to operate, which is a really horrible story.
No, it's a great story, and it had me flashing back to only less than maybe 22 hours prior to this moment, when I was in the chair, fully reclined in a dentist's office. I had split a tooth wonderfully, biting into, I'm going to say, a chicken wing. And as he was removing a third of the tooth with a pair of pliers, I was numbed up, of course, but I didn't know this was going to happen. It was an emergency thing. So I didn't bring any earphones, which I would normally do. Because dentistry is one of those things you do not want to listen to if you're the patient. I would rather have to watch than listen to it, because you can't see what's in your mouth. So because I'm listening and this yanking sensation is happening, and the mouth is held open with ridiculously sized pieces of rubber, and as it's happening, I start to go into what I can only assume with tremendous regard and respect. I likened it to I'm being prison raped. And I'm just going to shut down and let it happen.
Right.
As opposed to make any sort of deal with a fictional God, said the agnostic. I decided I couldn't possibly go anywhere near there. I was just going to accept it as prison rape and know that it would eventually happen.
How did it go?
I got through it. Yeah. I got, and almost chuckled a little to myself with that, very little. And then most of it was intense, ridiculous, surreal, audible agony.
Yeah.
And a strange tugging sensation of my jaw line, which I just wasn't accustomed to.
Did you report it to the warden?
No, because then it happened.
I see.
Yeah. If I don't say anything until now,
just let it go.
It didn't happen. I can laugh about it now. Tragedy
We can all
plus
laugh
time.
about it now.
You surely should only go to dentists that have laughing gas.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't think he or I knew this was going to happen, and by the time he found it and decided what to do, it was too late.
It's never too late.
Or he just said, "The hell with this kid.
Yeah.
He should experience prison rape."
I think that's
audibly. Okay, let's go back to this bizarre direction. Although Y2K was a wild disappointment to most, as the end of the millennium grew near, a G2 jet crash landed at the Van Nuys Airport here in Los Angeles. The lone passenger walked away unscathed. Were you, sir, in fact, the inspiration of M. Night Shyamalan's film Unbreakable?
I have never seen a single frame of any of Night's movies. The reason being he makes scary movies, and I am incapable of watching scary movies. I've never seen, The Shining or any scary movie. So I cannot respond to that. I can only respond to my specific experience in a G2.
Let me rephrase. Did you think you were a superhero when you walked away from it? That you had just discovered in the pilot episode of this comic book, you had just discovered that you indeed had superpowers.
Let me tell you about my philosophy.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, my philosophy in life can be summed up in 3 sentences. It's regret the past, dread the future, fear the present.
Again, if you would, please.
Regret the past, dread the future, fear the present. Okay.
Fantastic.
So it doesn't give you a lot of room for anything other than the joy of everything's going to go wrong. So just move on, right? So I've always known that I would die in a plane crash.
You've always known this?
I've always known this. In fact, every time I get off an airplane, I personally viewed it as a failed suicide attempt. So, so there I am. Sony, I had a deal with Sony Television many years ago, and unbeknownst to them, my agent and lawyer got me such an amazing deal that I had 100 hours of occupied private jet time.
That was built into the contract.
That was built into the contract because I live in East Hampton, Long Island, but no one ever works there, so I have to fly out to LA a lot. And when the head of the studio at that time, Eric Tannenbaum, who's a good friend of mine, realized just how much that was going to cost Sony, he would go out of his way to find crappy jets.
Wow.
Whatever was cheaper, because he was so angry at me because he had made this deal. So we were flying in a Gulfstream 2. It was my wife, my kid, another family, and we were flying from East Hampton to Montrose, Colorado, where I let everyone else off to go skiing at our house in Telluride, and I was flying on alone to Van Nuys. And my first meeting, by the way, wasn't even at Sony, it was at Warner Brothers, because I was also directing Wild Wild West. So anyway, I think they didn't take on fuel in Montrose, and that they didn't know the headwinds that they had been experiencing, or something. Anyway, we're sort of near Van Nuys, and we're at 14,000 feet, and the pilot, co-pilot, and flight attendant are all in the cockpit with that first door closed, and I'm sitting there. And at 14,000 feet, because, you know, they show you the altitude.
Sure.
The plane starts to shudder, nosedive, and from the environment, I hear beep, 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 beep,
Yeah,
beep,
sure.
beep. Yeah, and we're going down. And we're going down really fast, and we're shuddering.
What sort of angle are we talking about?
We're talking about like 35 degrees.
Sure.
Not, and not flat 35 degrees, but nose diving 35 degrees. So we're over the runway, and I think, well, we're too far over the runway. They're going to do a touch and go and come around again, but I didn't know that I suspect they didn't have fuel. Okay. So we come down 2/3 of the way to the runway, heading towards the brick wall that looks like Bobby Slayton's video.
In your hand?
In my hand. We're heading at it.
Right.
The reverse thrusters don't come on because they have no fuel, I think. They make a U-turn.
Sure.
And they are now using as the method to slow down the plane, aiming at hitting.
Fred Flintstone's feet?
Yeah, literally hitting and jumping over other parked airplanes. So oh, by the way, at 14,000 feet, because I become very dry, and you can learn from this. Although you're a very dry guy yourself, I just want to make sure we remember we're also working together.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
at 14,000 feet, I cross my arm, I put my feet up on the seat in front of me, and I say out loud, "And now I die." As we hit and jump over planes.
This great line was for the walls, the inner
Just
walls
for me.
of this plane.
Just for me.
You
So-
put up your feet in your cowboy boots.
in
and
my
say,
cowboy boots, "And now I die."
And now I die.
But since we're hitting and bouncing over other planes, it gives me opportunities to try different line readings. So I go, "And now I die." No, out loud, I'm going, "And now I die." Boom!
Over another plane.
Over another plane.
And now I die.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't go that. I don't go up at the end. I think that's trying too hard.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, no, but no, you got to keep it flat and dreary. We go through a fence. We hit a Dodge Ram 3500 dually. We scrape against the pine tree, and we come to a stop. Cockpit door opens. 3 out-of-control human beings. Not me. I go calm. I stand up. I see that one of our engines is leaking fluid onto the ground.
Sure.
But it's coming from the engine. So I say in a very dry, ironic voice,
Anyway.
almost sardonic, I go, "Say, Are we at all worried about that?
Anyone have a light?
Anyway, the pilot says, and you don't want a pilot to say this, she says, "Oh my God."
That's got to be in the manual. That's got to be
Yeah,
page one.
right.
Do not
Do
say.
not say, "Oh my God." Okay, they race by me. I wait for instructions, and then I realize
They're not coming.
I'm alone on this airplane. I walk to the back past broken china and luggage through the bathroom, which out to the rear door, which is where you load the baggage on.
Sure.
And I see my crew fleeing. And Gloria, the pilot, is taking off her epaulets because now there are helicopters, you know, News 5, News 9, News 4 are flying and she doesn't want to be seen as the pilot,
She's
the
ripping
captain.
off
She's ripping off her stripes as she's running. So I'm like looking at that. All these Van Nuys firemen run up to me and yell, "Get off the plane, because they think it's going to explode.
Yeah.
I say, it's very easy for you to say, "Get off the plane," but who's going to catch me? It doesn't matter, just get off the plane. So you look around, you find a fireman with the biggest mustache, because they all have, because they're firemen. I go, you're catching me. He says, "I don't give a fuck, just get off this plane." By the way, the height is slightly higher than this table. I just sort of do a little swan move, and he like hugs me, and I'm on the ground, but I'm very afraid of heights.
Clearly. The 4-foot drop. Who's going to catch me? Yeah.
Who's going to catch me? And then we all flee. I called my wife and said, "Listen, I was just in a plane crash, but I'm okay." And she said, "Good. It's like GARP. It won't happen again because they."
What are the chances?
Yeah, but that's not my attitude.
No, it's coming.
So I get back to, I'm staying at the Bel Air Hotel, and there are lovely flowers from the company that almost killed me, with a note that said, "We apologize for your recent tragedy."
Really?
Yeah.
Seemed like a form note. Doesn't seem like it was written for you, Barry. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, right, because they have a lot of these printed up for various. Turns out that I told the story on Letterman, and during the commercial, Letterman leaned over and said, "Was that pilot's name Gloria?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh my God, she used to be my pilot." So it could have happened to Dave, but I took the fall for it.
Maybe Dave taught her to say, "Oh my God."
Oh my God.
When she's ripping off her stripes and racing through to safety, having left her pilot or lone passenger behind, I wonder if in your dry, flat delivery you might have said, "Well, that can't be good." And the visual of these three racing away from you.
Yeah. You know,
because they were hightailing it for one purpose, which is to not die in an explosion of fire.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
they didn't have a cab to catch.
No, they were
late
getting
for a
away
train.
from what was surely going to be a massive explosion. What they had forgotten is, due to their, I suspect, running out of fuel, it would have been a smaller explosion. Yeah.
Just enough to put you in a...
But it made me a better flyer. It's why I didn't sue them. Because the reason I think people fear dying in a plane crash is not that we all know we're going to die, kind of, although we all think maybe it won't happen to us also.
Right.
But the fear about a plane crash is knowing for minutes ahead of time you're going to die.
Yes.
I always thought snot would come out of my nose and I'd weep and I'd think about all the things I didn't say to certain people and what would my wife and child do without me, but none of that happened.
No, you put up your boots and said...
And now I die.
And now
so
I die.
once I knew that I could accept death that way, it made me a way better flyer.
Once you lived through it.
Because we used to fly like Pan Am to LA, and my wife has a pilot's license, and like over Kansas, the pitch of the plane at 32,000 feet would go like, I go, "What's that?"
Sure.
"Well, they're changing the speed." "Well, why would they do it? We're over Kansas. Something is wrong."
What a joy to fly with you were. You still are.
And now I'm better.
Right. Well, you've hit it, because it's the panic of not knowing what it's going to be like versus, well, I know how I reacted in maybe one of the worst crashes anyone I'll ever know will ever live through. I know how I dealt with it. That's how I'll deal with it next time.
That's right.
What else you got?
That's right. And I still get stuff.
Yeah.
Kidney stones.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. as a cinematographer first, before a director, and one, dare I say, in my humble opinion, literally reinvented how to use a camera in a film for comedic effect. And if I may press this point further,
Please.
as first displayed in that ridiculously beautiful, perfect tracking shot in Blood Simple, where the camera literally passes over a drunk and then settles back down on the bar floor. Are you horrified by the utter lack of any visual style in the hard R-rated comedies from directors like Todd Phillips, who clearly just don't give a shit?
I would have to say that it's different.
Yeah.
Not better, not worse, but totally different. I feel that there's a school of comedy that actually is anti-craft and goes out of their way not to care about lighting or framing or design. And there are a bunch of guys like that. You know, I think Adam McKay, Apatow, and they make really funny comedies. I mean, the scene with the baby Jesus scene in Talladega Nights is extraordinary. It's unbelievably funny. And I would have never been able to make it that funny because I never would shoot that way. You know, set up 5 cameras, light it badly, and just let people riff. And I wish I could do that. And every time I say, you know, this thing I'm going to do is going to be more fluid, I can't help myself. So about that tracking shot, the first movie I ever shot, I was never on a set before I was a DP. The first day of shooting Blood Simple was the first day Joel, Ethan, or I had ever been on a movie set. Later, maybe we'll talk about how that came to be, but there's a shot where the camera is tracking down a long bar to someone who's talking at the other end, but in the way of the camera is a drunk lying on the table. You just talked about it. And the camera gets to the drunk, booms up over the drunk, comes back down and goes, and continues on its merry way.
That initial level.
At the same level. And one day I went to the cutting room because I became really good friends with Joel and Ethan because we all did this together.
Right.
And they had taken that shot out of the movie. And I said, hey, what happened to the shot with the drunk? And Joel said, well, it seemed a little bit self-conscious. I said, the whole movie is nothing but self-conscious. Why pick on that shot? And they put it back in.
Right.
And I will say that unlike most directors, especially comedy directors, I believe that the camera can and often should be a character in the show.
Yeah.
Because the camera, in my mind, is the audience's point of view.
Yeah.
The reason I tend to use wide-angle lenses is that I feel the audience feels, unconsciously, they are in the room with the actors.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of other guys that shoot beautiful movies, the Scott brothers, Michael Mann, but they use very long lenses, which is a beautiful effect because the plane of focus is right on the actor's face and everything goes soft in the background. But somehow I feel that distancing. The audience unconsciously knows that, and I don't think those movies, I often find them a little bit colder and less emotional because the audience doesn't feel they're there with the actors.
Well, I think it is the lack of emotional attachment of any possible kind in a Todd Phillips film that ultimately you live and die by your wits and everything else is going to suffer without any emotional connection to any of these people. You have no reason to care about anyone.
I'm not going to comment on that.
Well, you don't have
But
to.
you should.
You don't have to.
Please,
I just
go
did.
on.
The Blood Simple, I am wildly curious for a couple reasons, not the least of which is my own selfish designs on directing something I wrote, which is a contemporary set noir. I know that you guys went to NYU and they approached you about shooting a trailer in order to raise financing for the film based on your dossier. Is that
That's not how it happened.
not at all?
No.
Fantastic.
But only according to Google. But what actually happened is NYU had a graduate school and an undergraduate school. There was no connection between the two. We hated them because they had better equipment and made slicker movies. The graduate school, which is where I was at, made more interesting stories, but technically we weren't as good as the undergraduate school. And I never knew Joel at film school.
The fact that you guys had never met is in fact in your dossier.
Oh, good.
Prior. But when they initially approached you, or how you came together.
This is how the approach happened.
Yes.
Joel and I both found ourselves at the same party that was thrown by a WASP named Hillary Ney. Hillary Ney, her father was CEO, president, and chairman of the board of Young and Rubicam, at the time the world's largest ad agency.
Oh, wow.
And she had an apartment in New York with her husband. And Joel knew her from his high school called Simon Rock. And I knew her from her brother, Nick Ney, who we called Nick Ney, who went to Hampshire College, where I went for 1 year. Joel and I find ourselves at a party surrounded by WASPs, rich WASPs, whose parents all owned coal mines in Pennsylvania and land in the Bahamas. And that in this party, there
Sister
were
cities, by the way.
yes, they are.
Nassau.
Yeah, they love each other.
Yeah.
And so there were these two Jews, and from across the room we could smell each other, and we walked towards each other, and the movie that had just come out was a movie called An American Friend that was shot by Robbie Mueller, directed by Wim Wenders, and it was a beautiful movie. And we started to talk about it, and because we weren't talking about coal mines or anything. And Joel said that he and his brother had written a script called Blood Simple. They needed to raise $750,000, and their friend, Sam Raimi, told them the way to do it is to shoot a trailer as if it's a finished movie, because they were going to try to get money from dentists and inventors and stuff like that. Dentists can't read a script and say, yeah, here's 15 grand for a point. But if you have a trailer, it does two things. One, it says to the investors, oh, this looks like a real trailer. I can see this. And B, you guys know how to shoot because it looks, okay, I understand the premise. I'll give you your $15,000. So they wanted to shoot a trailer as part of their sales technique. And I said, I own a 16 millimeter camera. I bought a used one with a friend as soon as I got out of film school, because I felt if I owned a camera, this is pre-video, this is 16 millimeter. If I owned a camera, I could legitimately say I'm a cameraman. So I said, I own a camera, and he said, you're hired. I taught Ethan how to load film. I taught my cousin, a neuropharmacologist, how to be the gaffer. No, Ethan was a gaffer. The neuropharmacologist was my assistant. We shot, it was very abstracted. There were no actors, just backs of heads and bullet holes and tracking down roads. We would attach my CP16 and my Bolex on a piece of wood to the front bumper of my Oldsmobile Cutlass 442, and we drive through New Jersey at night, and we cut it. It took a year.
Wow.
Ethan and I stayed in New York and tried to raise money, and Joel went to Minneapolis, where they're from, and got the woman who was the biggest fundraiser for Hadassah to give them her list.
Wow.
And after a year, we raised $750 grand. It was written around places that Joel knew in Austin, Texas. It was a very claustrophobic movie.
Sure.
And literally the first day on the movie set was the first day. I had the assistant cameraman come to my hotel room the night before and show me what a 35 millimeter camera looked like.
Oh, wow.
And where the on-off switch was. And the investors hated the movie. But we got into the New York Film Festival, and Joel and Ethan and I were in the lobby listening to the critics watching the movie, and we thought they must have been screening a different movie because it's the first time anyone had laughed where we wanted them to, and realized it was actually a comedy, and we got a rave review. Janet Maslin went on for 2 paragraphs about my cinematography.
The New York film critic of the day.
And talked about how these Coen brothers were going to become a huge force in Hollywood from that movie.
Could you believe her at that point in your creative life?
I knew that Joel and Ethan were the real deal. And it's interesting, and you'll see this when we shoot together if you talk fast and flat enough. But
right. And keep the job.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I'll move on, so you'll be fine. But one of the things you learn at film school is because film then was very expensive, video's a whole other world, you wouldn't shoot masters. You wouldn't shoot lots of what Gordon Willis calls shotgun coverage. you would really think about how you would edit the film. And I would only shoot close-ups for the parts of the scene where I thought I needed you in close-up. I didn't want you to do whole takes because I didn't want to waste that much film. So you really...
That was part of your shot list.
That was part of my shot listing thing. And I can show you, if you want, I can show you all the shot lists for our entire pilot, which are already done.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I'll email them to you tonight. You can see every shot we're going to do already.
That's amazing.
Because I think it's really important to visually think how you're going to get into scenes, how you're going to get out, where you want to play the 3-shot comedy shot and not have to shoot all this coverage, because it should work in a 3-shot.
I'm thrilled beyond belief, again, for my own selfish reasons, because in its first greenlit incarnation, my little opus, I went to our friend Sam Raimi while he was prepping, I think, the second Spider-Man movie, just to talk to his storyboard specialist or what have you, for the very purpose of wanting to know my shot list and wanting to better understand how to storyboard, having never done it before.
Right.
You know, it either works for the filmmaker or it doesn't.
Right.
There's clearly no wrong or right way other than the individual taste. So prior to Blood Simple and knowing what your shot list was going to be for the trailer, what are you drawing from? What sort of impressions were made on you in film school or what have you?
None. I find film school, I found NYU graduate film school sort of a profound waste of time and money, except for the following. A, it's something to do for 3 years where you don't have to get a job. B, you have a community of other students who will crew your film. I'll shoot your film if you do sound on mine, and will you be the script supervisor, and I'll be the boom man on yours. So you have that community. And then the professors become good once you've shot something.
Right.
But what I would encourage anyone to do is go out and make any film and discover, oh God, I've shot everything in close-up because I fell in love with that size, but I don't know where anyone is. Or isn't that interesting? I did that big crane shot, but because I didn't have anyone talking, it's really boring. And now that the movie's cut together, I got to get rid of the crane shot. Like, I'll never do a crane shot, like of a car pulling up to a store.
Right.
I'll start the dialogue
From the...
even though the guys are in the car, because otherwise you get rid of it. If it doesn't move the story, get rid of it. It's why the movies I direct are so short. I just don't have the patience to watch. I want to, come on, that's me.
Yeah.
So I found that film school was helpful in that I made a bunch of movies, either as the cinematographer, the director, and discovered what works, what doesn't work. But for me, I come from a still photography background. I wanted to be a still photographer.
Right.
And first thing I did when I was 17 years old is I bought a used Leica with, at first, a 35 millimeter and then a 21 millimeter lens. And all of the images I've shot were very tableau and stylized. They were real things. I didn't create stuff, but they had a sort of a very tableau sensibility about them, where I wanted you to find what was funny in the shot. The irony is, okay, I graduate high school. I was the best French horn player in New York City. I went to music and art high school. And I graduate high school, and the first person I call up was a still photographer named Elliot Irwitt, because I wanted to see if he needed an assistant. And he said, my stable is full, but thank you for calling. He was listed in the phone book. I graduate college with an NYU. Don't go to NYU undergraduate school. That is a big factory, unless you just want to be in New York City. I graduate NYU undergraduate school. I call Elliot Irwitt. He says my stable is full. 4 years later, I go to graduate film school. I get out on shooting industrials for like the Sony Trinitron and stuff. And some gaffer says, you know who's looking for an assistant who's just gotten into film and could really use someone to look at his equipment and help him because he doesn't know about the film end of things is Elliot Erwitt.
And you said my stable's full.
Even not that, I met Elliot. I spent the next 4 years of my life with Elliot and his wife, Susan, who's now my wife, every single day. And I went around the world with him. We did documentaries for HBO, changed my life and viewpoint. I had never drank or smoked cigars or anything before I met Elliot and discovered this great world out there. I was a very protected Jewish child. And then several years later, when Elliot and his wife separated, and basically Elliot said to everyone, you either get to be her friend or mine, I said, I choose her. And then several years later, we started to be boyfriend and girlfriend, and now we've been married for 25 years.
Right.
So Elliot was always somehow karmically from high school in my life.
Yeah. Well, the perseverance initially,
Right.
and then sheer happenstance that someone said to you, oh, you know who's looking for? Because that might have been a tiny little window of opportunity before his stable was yet again
That's right.
closed to you.
But here's the thing about quantum mechanics. If his stable had been open when I was in high school,
Yeah.
there's no way that, and I might have stepped outside 5 minutes late one day and been hit by a bus.
Sure.
Which is why over the years I've started to calm down and realize whatever happens, that didn't happen, but maybe that will create an opportunity for this to happen. Better or worse.
Yeah. I like control of the things I feel I can, and I found this weird ability to, like air flight, when it's utterly out of my control, I am fearless because there ain't shit I can do. And that is a weird thing, calm that came over me without it ever being explained to me or what
Right.
any of this meant. It was just a weird thing.
What's your cultural background?
Well, I'm a Californian Jew, which is just slightly different than the New York experience
Right.
or the East Coast experience.
But how do you have that name?
The Pollock name?
Yeah. Well, Kevin doesn't scream Jew.
It's Russian. Kevin's Irish, of course, for handsome. Sorry again, Mom. And Pollock was a name given to the Russian Jews when they got to Ellis Island. Yeah.
So you're both sides Jew.
Yeah, my mother's father was born and raised in Leeds,
Right.
in the UK. And then my father's father escaped the Cossacks at the turn of the century from Prussia. Yeah.
But don't you seem too calm to be Jewish?
That's well.
That's a California.
I think it is. I think it because it's my only experience being born and raised.
Right.
And in fact, the first few times I was introduced to the what I consider to be different Jewish culture of the East Coast, I found it cartoonish in design,
think?
in design and execution,
Right.
and instantly hilarious. But
Right.
my introduction was Woody Allen films.
Right.
Oh, that's what I've heard tell is. And because he was, from the very beginning, a physical comedian
Yeah.
and just so great at that, and then wildly self-deprecating in terms of his Jewishness, I didn't see any of the annoyance because he was already making fun of it as it was happening.
Right,
It wasn't until
right.
I experienced actual East Coast Jews that I first began to
Get
not
annoyed?
embrace the thing that is the East Coast Jew.
Do you feel closer to Canadian Jews?
I could
Anyway.
never be that polite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But David Steinberg might argue. My favorite Canadian Jew on record.
I shot commercials for David.
Really?
Yeah, and one of the great highlights of my life, I'm sure you've seen it many times, was David Susskind, How to Be a Jewish Son, with Mel Brooks and David Steinberg, and one of the best hours of television ever. And Steinberg, David steals the show by saying the way a Jewish boy brings home a Catholic girl is previous to that, bring home a black girl.
Yeah.
And then give her up, and then suddenly the Catholic girl's fine.
Instantly
Yeah.
embraceable.
Yeah.
No, David's brilliant. Directed
Yeah.
my first HBO special.
Oh,
and,
really?
yeah, and gave me and our writers such focus. It was astounding. I wanted to do something other than just stand-up. I wanted to do some sort of sketch thing, and we were writing sketches. And he said, have you guys seen the Madonna's Truth or Dare video that just came out and we had, or movie? And he said, I think it's funny that she chose to document herself. You know, the Beatles were approached and said, we have this thing we want to do. It's called A Hard Day's Night. But really, it's what it's like to be. And she said, and Madonna said, maybe the first of its kind that I'm aware of. I think we should hire a film crew and you should follow me around on tour and capture all that is me.
Right.
And so I wanted to do that, where behind the scenes, off stage, I'm just an out of control, egomaniacal asshole. So that's in black and white, while my stand-up concert's in color.
Right.
Where she had a circle prayer in her show, in her documentary. In the mockumentary, I have a circle prayer, but during it, I fire someone. So that guy.
Right.
So David Steinberg was that incredible force to focus. So yeah, he's been a hero of mine for a long time. 22-day shoot prior to Blood Simple, of course, 9 porn films. You've probably talked about that ad nauseum, although you can't help but see that.
No, it was 9 days.
9 days. 22 porn films.
No, 9 days. 9 days, 9 features.
But again, it was because you had a camera and somebody said, do you want to do this?
Yes, that's true. And again, because of my experience at film school, the genius of being able to shoot 9 pornos in 9 days is they were all on a set that we built in a loft on 17th Street and 5th Avenue. And we had many sets. We had the bedroom set, the kitchen set, the dentist's office set, because the producer was brilliant at finding the most unerotic ways to shoot erotic sex scenes. So what I said is, look, if we're going to do this in 9 days, we have to shoot out locations. So we had a big board of all the 9 pornos and what scenes took place in the bedroom.
Sure.
So we do scene 2 from porno 6, we do scene 6 from porno 2, and we would shoot out the bedroom. Because a lot of time was, the second most time is lighting.
You were a line producer first.
Yeah, you know what? But I always, at film school, you do learn how to be a line producer. And how to shoot efficiently. So I figured that out. And the thing that slows you down the most is waiting for the cum shot. That averages 3 to 4 hours.
Now, I must say that that's a surprise to me, that you would wait for that sort of thing.
You would think that would be the least of your problems. But it turns out that these men... May I have some water, please?
Sure. You're not, now, if I come to you in the not-too-distant future and I pitch you an idea for a comedy called 9 Pornos in 9 Days, are you going to be okay with that? I mean, I'll come to you first.
The problem is...
as it were.
See, it was a pun on the word come, wasn't it? The problem is I want to do it too.
Oh, boy. How have you not?
Well, I have stories that would uncurl your hair.
Which, by the way, will be shorter when I start working on the pilot.
It has to
Much
be.
shorter. Wildly shorter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to go that far.
Okay.
Barry, got to stop you there, if I may. Sorry, but allow a sponsor to come in and support the hell out of us for this brilliant podcast. How ready are you to dump your mobile service provider? Let our sponsor, Ting, be your rebound. It has everything you're looking for, folks. What's not to love? It's nationwide, it's no BS, it makes more sense than any of the alternatives. Ting is contract free. Did you hear me? No termination fees, no bundling, and no extra charges for basic features like voicemail. Pick your custom service level and only pay for what you use. Get credits on unused service. What a deal. You heard me, what a deal. People, stop hating yourself each time you look at your bloated phone bill. Stop straining to decipher mysterious charges. Let Ting step in and ease your pain. So, take your stand today. Do something to change what isn't working. I've got a special tip for you, Chat Show audience. Log on to chat.ting.com to save $25 on your new service or $25 in service credit. Just use that URL to grab the discount. Congrats for breaking free. That's chat.ting.com.
Raising Arizona,
Yep.
for me, well, my personal favorite cinematically of yours as a cinematographer will always be Miller's Crossing,
Yeah,
just
mine
because
too.
it's my,
Mine too.
I need to hear why. In fact, let's hear why first before we get to the absolutely surrealistic, comedic cinematography that I think was born in Blood Simple but came to fruition in Raising Arizona, just in a, to the point of, oh, I see this is what the Coen brothers are.
Right.
That was the film for me that I hold up as the example of.
Yeah. You know, there were 3 films, that, and then I did 3 O'Clock High, and then I did Throw Mama from the Train, where the camera really was a character in the movie.
Yeah.
You know, and, but again, what was great is that we sort of were discovering it together. You know, people, it's just, it was thrilling that we were able to screw around like that, you know?
Yeah. Now, just to not confuse, have you ever seen the Humphrey Bogart ill-conceived film that I think is called Dark Passage, where the camera is his character and everyone speaks to it and you hear his voice off camera? He breaks out of prison and he gets plastic surgery, so we don't reveal Humphrey Bogart's face till the last
Do you see it in a mirror at some
10
point?
minutes of
or
the film.
something?
No, you'd like to. And in fact, I think it comes close to a mirror and then backs
really?
away to truly torture you.
Who directed it?
It is ill-conceived and horribly executed and wildly boring and just awful. It doesn't work.
Right, yeah.
Because I've come to see a Humphrey Bogart film, and damn it, I hear his voice.
Right,
But fuck
right.
me if I ever get to see him until the last 4 minutes.
No.
Oh, man. So, when you say the camera is a character in
Are
the
we
film,
running again? We're just chatting, right?
No.
Oh, are
I
we?
never actually broke, because we're live. So that allows our editor to jump in and create a
Oh,
whole...
well, that wasn't fair, was it? Okay,
Sorry.
here we are, back again.
Yeah, welcome back.
Thanks.
So when you say that the camera is a character in the film, and you also said that the audience sees the film through the camera's lens, so that they are, in a sense, that character.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, it's definitely not the character in the movie like the Humphrey Bogart movie. What it is I want the audience, I want to take the audience on a ride.
Yeah.
I want to say that the camera is not a recording device, it's a storytelling device.
a window.
It's a window. So depending on what lens we use, what angle we use, how we move the camera, that creates an energy that's kind of great. I'll tell you a Rob Reiner story. We've both worked with Rob. I shot 2 films for him, When Harry Met Sally and Misery.
Yeah.
And when we shot Misery, I wanted to do some hair and makeup tests with Kathy Bates and also show him how different lenses affect the face, affect the energy. Like, for instance, if I'm back here on a 50 millimeter lens and I've got you from your top button up, if you lean forward 4 inches, it really doesn't make a difference in terms of changing how the size of you in the image.
Right.
If I'm here with a 21 millimeter lens, I'm seeing from your hands all the way to your face. Now, if I just do that little bit of energy, now I'm in a tight close-up of your face. Or if you lean forward 3 or 4 inches, suddenly you're looming in there, and that energy of performance makes a difference.
Yeah.
And also, lenses change the shape of a face. And I said to Rob that I'd love to show him what Kathy's face does with different lenses, because my suggestion was, as the movie goes on, we start to use wider lenses and closer, so that this energy has a real scary, loomy kind of feeling. And Rob's response was, we don't need those tricks. We have Kathy Bates. We have a thoroughbred. We don't need those fancy camera tricks. And my response was, we're making a film, so we should use all the tools available to us. If you don't care, let me do it for myself. He said, if you want to do it for yourself, go ahead. But so I shot these tests with Kathy. By the way, Kathy was someone who, every morning would walk on the set and say, "Fuck you, Sonnenfeld," and I would say, "Fuck you, Bates," because we just loved each other.
Great.
So, by the way, when I do this, that's a sign of endearment.
I couldn't be happier.
Yeah. And then Rob saw the test and realized that lenses are a tool, just like lighting or acting or music or sound effects, that there's a reason why you should, in a shot, choose a 21 or choose a 50. They're different.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that the Men in Black 3 3D version, I think, is the most successful. I'm getting off topic for just a second. Is the most successful 3D movie I've ever seen, and I'll tell you why. You look at Jim Cameron's movie or Scorsese's movie, you look at Avatar or Hugo, they were both beautiful 3D movies, but because they put what's called the convergence, where the 3D starts at the screen, and all the 3D is kind of behind it, well, that's Jim's personality. Jim's personality is going 7 miles below ground in a submersible and looking through a hole and seeing reality, right? Through that hole. And if you look at Avatar, all the 3D is back there. If you know anything about me and my personality, I'm grabbing you and saying, I'm only child, I'm Jewish, pay attention to me. So in Men in Black 3, because we use wide lenses close, every single shot, not like spears going through the frame, but Will and Josh Brolin or Will and Tommy are actually in front of the screen. They're in
sitting
the
down
audience.
and having a meal together.
In that diner?
Yeah, the audience is in the diner with them.
The audience is in the diner with them, and that scene, I think, is so beautiful because Brolin is lovely in that scene, and Will can't figure out how Tommy Lee Jones's anger could exist when Brolin was so lovely. And it's, I swear to you, it's the acting, it's the writing, but it's also where the lens is, because the audience has been invited in. So I know this sounds a little scary, but when you decide to direct your film, it's not arbitrary. Nothing is arbitrary where you put the lens. And sometimes it's the sky is bald white, let's not see the sky, so now we have to be higher. But if you can control stuff, every decision. And the thing about directing, all directing is having someone who's in charge of consistency of tone, right?
Yeah.
And the only way you do that is by answering thousands of annoying questions that seem to not make a difference. Do you want the folder to be the leather kind or the paper kind? Paper. You can't say I don't care, because no one ever wants to hear I don't care. So you have to make all these decisions. And I can look at all the movies I've made, all the movies Joel and Ethan Coen have made, and go, no matter what their movie is, no matter what my movies have been, they all seem like I directed them. And I don't know why, except I've just made thousands of decisions.
Right.
And, you know, Miller's Crossing as a cinematographer looked a lot different than Raising Arizona as a cinematographer, but in many ways, both have a formality of on-axis screen direction and looks. There's no panning. It's always this way. I can look at both those movies, which seem to be totally different, and know I shot both of them.
Right.
So I tried to segue back.
No, to be clear on the 3D, I think it's important. I found this interesting in the dossier. That while it is so powerful in 3D, you chose specifically to shoot 2D and do the conversion because of the reasons you just gave, which is you control the lens in a 2D, even though you have seen everything in 3D from the beginning.
That's right.
As a filmmaker.
That's right. I believe that if you shoot knowing you're going to convert to 3D, that 2D is a better method of shooting. You can use wider lenses. You can get closer to the actors. The pace is different. In 3D, the equipment is huge. Comedy needs pace. Like on the set also, just from, if you do a shot and now you're in the camper for 2 hours and you forgot how funny you were and what you were doing, I think pace on the set, it's part of the reason I like television so much. The pace is like that. You know, on a feature, you notice a crack and you say, get the standby painter, let's fix that. And on a TV show, you go, it's fine, let's go.
Yeah.
and it's 8% technically worse and 300% energetically better.
Yeah.
So it's a great trade-off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would think so. Now, when you got to the Rob Reiner experience, by the way, silly for me to assume you find more of an instant kinship working with Rob Reiner. I mean, what Jews in their right mind hail from Minnesota?
No, the Coens are from Minnesota.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, yeah.
So
I
since
know.
you came from working with them,
Yeah,
the Jews from Minnesota,
right.
did you feel this new organic kinship with another East Coast Jew in Rob?
You know, it's funny. You know, I had also worked for his former wife, Penny Marshall, because I was the cinematographer on Big.
Right.
And when Penny heard I was going to work with Rob, because Penny's not Jewish, but
Right.
Jew or not a Jew. You remember the Hanks routine on Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
The big test was Penny Marshall, Jew or not a Jew, and they all got it wrong because she's not. I remember Penny called me up and said, I may be a whiner, but he's a screamer.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, Penn. But Rob and I got along great, but there are two. But Penny and Rob, and let's see, some directors just don't want to hear about the camera the same way that,
Right.
let's say, Danny DeVito on 3 o'clock on Throw Mama, or Phil Joanno on 3 O'Clock High, or Joel and Ethan on Raising Arizona. So I adjust my style accordingly. However, Rob and I got along instantly.
Yeah.
You know, we like the same overcooked meats.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, I loved the Dick Van Dyke Show, and I loved, you know, which his dad created. And,
Sure.
And so we became very good friends. I introduced him to his wife, Michelle
wife.
Singer Reiner.
Uh-huh.
What do you mean by current wife?
Well, we spoke of the prior.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see. Michelle Singer Reiner, and so you just shoot differently, in fact. With Rob, the camera was less about, well, on When Harry Met Sally, it was a pretty much straight-ahead romantic comedy.
Right.
So what you want to do there is not have the camera get in the way, but make it lit really nicely.
Right.
And
Very
so
traditional
use-
settings and had its own traditional
Yeah.
pace.
That's right. But we did get along great.
Yeah, no. Well, certainly fantastic work. And during the filming of Misery, while you and Kathy Bates were greeting each other with fuck yous,
Right?
at what point during the process is it crystal clear to you, the actual doing of it, does it become crystal clear that she'll win the Academy Award? Because it becomes crystal clear at some point watching the film.
Right.
So I'm just wondering during the actual process, because one of the questions that I find when people approach me, either pedestrian or interesting, depending on my mood, is when you were doing so-and-so film, did you know it was going to be ...
Right.
So usually the answer to this rather pedestrian question is, yeah, you never know.
Right.
When you're having too much fun, chances are it's going to be a piece of shit, and the opposite is also true. Certainly in the case of Usual Suspects, we got an unknown director, an unknown writer, no stars in it, and no time to shoot, and we're all getting paid coffee and donuts, and something is happening, we're not quite sure what. So in an experience where Kathy is just, as Rob said, a thoroughbred, but also the material, it's a perfect storm, if I may.
Yeah.
Is there a sense? Was there a sense? Do you think in those terms?
No. We all knew Kathy was fantastic. And the great thing about Kathy is no matter, she's one of those actresses that no matter how intense the moment is or in the filming, as soon as Rob would say cut, it was like, all right, do you have it? Hey, fucking Sonnenfeld, you got it?
Right.
She would break. She was not a method actor.
Sure.
She was
Thankfully.
Thankfully. So we knew she was great, but let's not forget that script was about 135 pages, of which 85 pages were in that bedroom. We were at Hollywood Studios on stage 3-8. So you're going to work for weeks and weeks at a time in a one-room set. right? And then another 25 pages were in the rest of the house. So
Right.
at some point, it just becomes rote.
Yeah.
Let's put the 10K there. Let's do this. You know, so it was a joy to be around and to watch it. But
There's
you know,
no real crystallized moment ever in a situation like that, really. Is there?
well, when she breaks the guy's ankle,
Or cobbles him.
cobbles him, the shot was disgusting enough that, although not hideous, it was hideous but not disgusting actually.
Right.
That you just knew Kathy was great,
Yeah.
and you knew that she was going to get recognition. You never should think about Academy Awards.
Oh, gosh,
or
no.
anything.
No. All right, so in Men in Black 3, I've heard Josh Brolin's version of the story of how his previous Tommy Lee Jones impersonation, previously known, circled back around when this film was being developed.
That's not my story.
Right, that's what I'm curious
Yeah.
about.
I was at a DGA award ceremony where I received the DGA award for directing a television show called Pushing Daisies.
Congratulations on it, by the way.
Oh, thanks. And Brolin was at the Coens table where they were winning all these awards for No Country. And in the after party, I was hanging out with Brolin and Joel and Ethan at the Beverly Wilshire. And I met Brolin, and I took one look at his head, which is huge.
Yeah,
And
he has that Pez dispenser.
Yeah, he does. So does Tommy Lee Jones. And I said, oh my God, you're perfect for Tommy. You know, you're like, I've never met anyone with as big a head except you, right? And he did a little Tommy imitation, but what made me want to hire Brolin.
What's the size of his head? I think you just said.
Well, the size of his head and his performance in W.
Oh, wow.
That's what it really was. It was not Brolin doing Tommy, because
Right.
it was Brolin doing W. And I thought he was extraordinary in that movie, because if you watch that movie again, there's tremendous tension, because in every scene he's eating. I mean, when he meets Laura Bush, he's like eating a burger and he's talking at the same. I've never seen anyone create more tension, like will food fall out of his mouth and he's eating chips and stuff. I just think he's phenomenal. So I really, as soon as, in fact, when I came on to Men in Black 3, the studio and producers wanted a different actor to play young Tommy Lee Jones, and I said, I really want to use Brolin. And then Brolin came and met the producers, and we agreed that that would be the way we went.
When he came and met the producers, did the impersonation come up at all?
I don't remember.
Because it's a rhythm and a cadence. As a voice nut, it's a rhythm and a cadence that is instantly the embodiment of another person.
What's amazing about that cadence is, and what's amazing about Tommy's cadence is, it's very musical and lyrical. You know, it's not flat.
The way you like it. Fast and flat.
You know what? With Tommy, he's very fast, and his diction is fantastic.
Right.
So I allow a little bit of musicality in there.
As long as there's proper enunciation.
That helps.
Yes.
But you got to talk fast.
Yeah.
And enunciate, and Tommy does that.
Yeah.
But, you know, on the first Men in Black, they had two different actors for that movie. They wanted Chris O'Donnell to play the Will Smith part.
Sure.
And Clint Eastwood to play the Tommy Lee Jones part.
I can't believe it wasn't made. It seems absolutely perfect.
It could have been.
What the hell's the matter with you?
It might have been a different director.
I see.
But Sweetie told me to hire Will, so I did.
That was Sweetie's suggestion.
Totally Sweetie's suggestion. Sweetie's like, Sweetie the wife,
Yes.
as I call her, is a brilliant casting person. When we were doing Get Shorty, which Danny DeVito produced, I was driving home from New York to East Hampton one day, and Danny called me about an actor for one of the roles. He said, what about so-and-so for something? And I said, you know, Danny, maybe. Can I think about it for like just 3 minutes? And Danny said, yeah, tell Sweetie hi. Because he knew I was going to call Sweetie and say, how about...
And it's because she's an encyclopedia, having been someone who watches more than you.
Yes, she does.
So she's more aware of who and what is out there.
Yes, she is.
And, of course, you trust her tastes.
Impeccably.
Right. Did you enjoy your own acting cameo in Get Shorty?
No.
How painful was that?
It's the only time I gave myself an actual word to say. I played a valet parker, in one of those Johnny Walker Scotch uniforms outside the Century Plaza that they used to have, and I had to say, thank you. And it was the only time I ever gave my line. I'll never do that again. I was incapable of saying
thank you.
Thank you.
As life.
You see the irony.
But it really was painful, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can't act.
And it was because the actor, someone realized you hadn't cast that part? Why?
No, I wanted to be in it.
Ah.
Residuals and all.
Best laid plans.
If only your line was, and now I die.
And now I die.
Oscar-worthy.
I was very good at that.
Sammy, I can't believe you waited an hour 16, but bless you. You picked your moments brilliantly.
It's all about timing. Sir.
It's the timing.
And Jamie, looking over at you, I am reminded that the audience was invited to engage. I would like to now open up the questions, if I may.
But first, this word from our sponsor. Folks, it's a great thing some of us are still consuming actual books along with our tweets and Facebooks these days. Reading is healthy and damn it fun. Bend your ears. Listen to tons of quality audiobooks from Audible in all of your favorite genres. Browse their gigantor library of books, lectures, comedy performances, even legendary stand-up. Use Audible for all your reading needs. Get the iPad app from the iTunes Store. You can even read your audiobooks on your Kindle and pick up where you left off on your MP3 player with the help of Whisper Sync technology. Get a free audiobook and a free 30-day trial by logging on to audiblepodcast.com/chat. That's audiblepodcast.com/CHAT. If you're wondering where to start, here's an idea. Pick up How I Slept My Way to the Middle, Secrets and Stories from Stage, Screen, and Interwebs, written and narrated by Chat Show. Me. You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
We have a little game version of a question and answer, or Q&A if you must, wherein 5 questions have been designed for you as a fan, specifically for you. These are a Coke or Pepsi no correct answer type of question. They come in a series of 5. They come from Twitter. We call them a tweet 5.
T5, T5, T5 forever now.
Love the incredibly strange and wonderfully entertaining Dave Koechner. Are you ready, sir? This one comes to you from @DougKeel.
Okay, I'm ready.
Men in Black or Adams?
Men in Black.
Jim West or Artemis Gordon?
Jim West.
Joel or Ethan? Some of these are Sophie's choice.
It depends if we're talking about sex or going cross-country.
The age-old question.
Somebody make note. Arguably the best answer we've had to a single tweet 5 in 166 episodes. Agent J or K?
K.
Same answer could have applied from previous question. Film or series television? See?
Film or series television? It depends if the product is good or not.
Yeah, I love that the utter lack of context to any of the questions, and yet the guest is kind enough to take it right to heart.
No, that's the on the set of the Coen Brothers movie, we play a game called Death is Not an Option, where you pick like the grip and the electrician, and you have to have sex with one of them, and death is not an option. And my favorite to Joel and Ethan was always, I would say to Ethan, again, the question is, who would you rather have sex with?
If you have
Death
to.
is not an option.
Right.
I would say to Ethan, Joel or your mother?
Oh, boy.
And the answer was always, because I asked him separately, Ethan would say, I guess my mother, because I got to keep working with Joel, and I don't. So it's a fun game on the set. Maybe you'll enjoy it.
Did Dr. Reiner play the gym game with you when you worked with him?
I love the gym game.
Yeah.
There are many good gyms.
The
Wait
gym-
till you see Eddie Murphy's photo double.
If it's the same one that I had the pleasure of working with on Dr. Dolittle 2, assuming that it is, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous,
Yeah.
and they're not related.
No.
Yeah,
No.
it's beyond gym. That's like a James or something.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a formal gym. We had a 40-minute conversation before I realized I was not talking with Eddie, and that's not true. I love what the dossier shows in terms of research with regards to the cameo in Men in Black 2 that was performed by the King of Pop, and what it took for you to get through conversations prior to shooting with Mr. Jackson.
Well, I remember that Michael really wanted to be an agent in Men in Black 2.
Initially, the whole thing was Will's idea. Let's put
Initially,
Michael.
it was Will's idea because he thought it would be fun, and then Michael got into it, and Sony wasn't sure if they wanted to do it or not, but Michael really wanted to be an agent. I didn't necessarily want him to be an agent, so we eventually shot him on a blue screen, and what he didn't know is that we were putting him in Antarctica with icebergs in the background, and
He didn't need to know.
he didn't need to know. Just like you really are going to ask questions just to waste time. I mean on the set,
On the
not
set,
here,
yeah, not now.
here.
No, I understood, but I'm glad
This
you
is-
clarified.
This is good because any question directed at me is a time for me to shine, so I'm fine with that. But he had a problem remembering Zed's name, the character Zed's name, and kept calling him Zeke.
Sure.
And I have to cut and say, no, Michael, it's Zed. And eventually he asked me if I could change
Sure.
Zed's character's name to Zeke.
And you
I
had to
said,
say there's already
this
a-
has been established for several movies. But I remember he was lovely and sent me a lovely note, which I still have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That
he
told me-
wanted.
yeah.
He wanted to wear the outfit. He wanted to wear the MIB suit.
Which we then let him. We just put him in Antarctica,
right.
but he's wearing a suit.
And the dossier suggests that he felt as though he was acting in a drama. Was taking it rather seriously. Is that your memory?
I truly don't remember.
Right.
But I do remember that it took a long time getting him to the set, and he came out in his pajamas for a while. But,
He came to the set in his pajamas.
Yeah.
Well, sure.
yeah, I would if I could.
We all got used to that visual, and I believe the correct answer is I would if I could.
I would if I could.
How much producing did you do on arguably, well, one of certainly Steven Soderbergh's best films, Out of Sight?
I was supposed to direct that movie, but then because I had done another Elmore Leonard movie, Get Shorty, and we had the rights with DeVito and Jersey Films, and I decided I wanted to do Men in Black. So the main work I did on that movie was the following. Sweetie went to the East Hampton Film Festival and saw a Soderbergh movie that day called Schizopolis. Sweetie, based on that movie, came back to me and she said, I think Soderbergh should direct Out of Sight.
Boy, is she a genius for knowing that the director of that film, which could not be technically further away
That's right.
in every way
Right.
from what Out of Sight was and is, saw...
Well, listen, you don't look at Fresh Prince and then read the script for Men in Black if it's supposed to be for Chris O'Donnell and say it should be Will Smith. Sweetie's just like a genius, you know? So I called Danny. I mean, many people claim that Soderbergh was their idea, but I'm telling you, it was Sweetie's idea.
Yeah.
And Soderbergh went on to direct that movie, but I was not involved. I looked at a cut and made a couple of suggestions that he ignored, which was fine. A director should be allowed to do their thing. And the amazing thing about that movie is until then, George Clooney's whole gestalt was on ER, always sort of looking down.
Looking down.
Looking
That
down.
was his
And
thing.
Soderbergh got him to look forward. And before we started, I asked, or when I saw it, I said to George, it's amazing how you didn't do the whole looking down thing. Can you tell me how that happened? And he said, it's simple. It was on purpose. Television is a close-up medium. So if everything's in close-up, everything's equally important. So it was my way of deciding what was important. When I felt something was important, I'd look up and into the lens or other character. But it was my only way I had to sort of like control the fact that everything was being shot like that. So he actually had a reason for it, and he was able to get rid of it because he knew Soderbergh wasn't shooting everything like that.
Right.
That's
absolutely not just interesting, but kind of brilliant.
Brilliant.
From a creative standpoint.
Versus what David Caruso has then decided to do with his sunglasses.
Right.
I'll decide when it's an important moment. You'll know it's an important moment when I take off my sunglasses.
Yeah, well, you see.
It doesn't quite work for
And there they are.
everyone, as it were. Okay, so let's talk lady killers.
Ah, okay.
You had seen the original?
Many times.
Right. And how does this, what is the genesis for the reboot?
I'm in bed.
Sure.
In East Hampton. I've got pneumonia.
I'll say.
Joel and Ethan call me up, and Ethan says, hey, Bear, we got like 5 weeks with nothing to do. Do you want us to write a script for you? So I said, yeah, White Noise, the Don DeLillo book that I've wanted to make for a decade. Ethan says, nah, that's hard. So I go, okay, Lady Killers. And he goes, on the phone, he goes, because Joel's sitting next to him, hey, Joe, what about Lady Killers? Joel goes, yeah. He says, all right, we'll look at it tonight, and we'll call you tomorrow. We'll just remind ourselves. So the next day they call, and they go, yeah, we'll do Lady Killers. And I had a deal at Sony. I'm sorry, I had a deal at Disney, and a directing deal. And we were trying to get out of it because I was going to do something else. And so anyway, so what happened was I said to Disney, will you let me out of my deal if I can get Joel and Ethan to write and direct Lady Killers? So they said, sure. So I said to Joel and Ethan, do you want to direct it too? And they said, yeah, okay. All right. So the difference was, so that's what happened. So they wrote Lady Killers for me, but became the director, producer of it. The difference was, in the version I wanted to make, I wanted Tommy Lee Jones as the Tom Hanks role. Because for me, the woman who sort of is fantastic, the black woman who sort of ends up killing all the guys who are trying to kill her, needs a real serious threat.
Yeah.
And that the comedy comes from that real serious threat. Like for me, the worst thing you can do is to try to have two funny people in your comedy. You don't want a comedy starring Gracie Allen and Gracie Allen.
There's a reason Margaret Dumont had a career.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why George Burns is as funny as Gracie Allen and why Tommy Lee Jones is as funny as Will Smith, because they're not doing the same thing. The problem for me with hiring Tom, who I love and I worked with is that the way it came down and the way it ended up being directed is that Tom was never a real threat to the woman. So everyone was funny in the movie, but in the original, Alec Guinness is kind of scary. And then there's triumph. There's no triumph if the hero beats a lame villain.
Yeah.
The triumph is if the hero beats, as Will Smith says, your heroes are only as heroic as your villain is villainous. So my problem with the movie was that everyone was too funny.
Yeah.
Although Marlon Wayans, I thought, was phenomenally great in it, playing the black person, which he's great at, by the way.
Well,
yeah.
As it turns out.
But I had very little to do with it. You don't go on the set. I tried one day. I went on the set of their movie, and I was watching them shoot, and Ethan said, hey, Joe, should we do a push-in on the painting, you know, a dolly in on the painting? And I went, yeah. And Ethan said, never mind. So I knew that I shouldn't be on this set because they're so perverse. I mean, we're really good friends.
Right. Oh, clearly.
Yeah. No,
Clearly.
we are.
Yeah. No, I'm.
I couldn't tell if you were being
I'm
dry
sincere
and
as
ironic.
well.
Okay.
How much of Jermaine did you know prior to working with him on Men in Black 3?
I knew his work in the Concords, which I think is fantastic.
You did?
I accidentally, for some reason, actually watched some of those shows on television. I don't know. I think my wife made me.
Well, and we should clarify for the audience what I
Yeah.
already know, which is the reason you say accidentally. You are someone who has seen, in fact, very little on the television over a great many years.
I'm a huge fan of the Weather Channel. I DVR the Weather Channel. I can tell you when Vivian Brown has been pregnant and how many kids she has. I'm a little bit friends with Brian Williams, the nightly news anchorman, and I've recently begged him if there's any way he can introduce me to Jim Cantori, who's one of the Weather Channel guys. And I put Al Roker in the first Men in Black. I love weather. I will literally sit outside my house in Telluride, Colorado, and for the afternoon, look at clouds. And Sweetie will sit there, I'll smoke a cigar, and I'll go, look, it's a two-headed dragon, but one of the heads looks like a cat. And she says, are you talking about the duck swallowing the chicken? And it's the same cloud.
Right.
Could that be more fun?
Yeah.
So my point is, I
No.
don't watch a lot of I don't watch a lot of television, but I do watch a lot of Weather Channel. But Sweetie made me watch Flight of the Conchords, which I thought was great. And then he was in Dinner for Schmucks, and he was very funny. But Jermaine was totally the producer, Walter Parks' idea for that role. And I thought Jermaine was really good, and he suffered through many hours of makeup every day.
Rick Baker prosthetics.
Rick Baker,
Yeah.
the best, 7 Academy Awards.
Yeah.
Actual, not nominations, actual awards.
Actual trophies.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jermaine is like a rare breed of funny. Because
Have you worked with him?
I've not, just as a fan. Just as a pure fan.
Yeah.
And seeing him live, we saw the two of them live,
Uh-huh.
which was
Thank you.
pretty ridiculous.
I can't understand him. Like when we would go out to dinner to talk about his character and stuff, I'd always make him, I swear, I would make him speak to me in a British accent.
So that you could...
So I could understand. I'd say, Jermaine, British, British. As he would, I'd say, do you want some more calamari? And he'd go, British. And then he would say, yes, please. And then I would know what he meant. So...
And he was okay with that?
I'm adorably pushy.
Man, I'm looking forward to this.
At first.
Okay, so here's I found interesting. Hopefully, we'll go. Okay. If in your dossier, there's mention of your being fired while working on a high-profile series of commercials for Duracell, but that just made me assume you learned and earned a meaningful and important definition of creative differences.
Wow, I don't remember that.
Okay, perhaps considerably more powerful or memorable lesson was what a monumental difference in attitude major film studio executives have towards you and your creative ideas after production's been shut down and after a trip to the emergency room for a heart attack.
I faint, I have heart attacks. It's, I'm very delicate.
Right.
I'm less so. But
what I found interesting about this was the studio's attitude towards a very myopic point of view, as told, lightened considerably upon your return to the set.
May I say something?
Sure.
I so desperately would love to read everything you found out about me, because I often forget. Like,
yeah.
I remember, like Men in Black 3 was really hard, and it took 2 years and 4 months, and that's 28 months. And I remember saying to Sweetie when it was over, that wasn't so hard. And she says, what are you talking about? Wow. So I don't remember the bad things anymore. I used to just let it grind me. So I think
Let me ask another question.
Yeah.
How
Help me.
have you come to deal with studio executives' involvement in the filmmaking process? That's what I found interesting about that particular memory of someone's. It was during, I think, Men in Black 2 that story came from. But
Well, that was when I had the heart attack, the fake heart attack,
yeah.
but I don't remember what happened afterwards.
So the swirling, I mean, look, when you make a small film,
Right.
And you raise the money independently, you understand creative freedom. And then
Right.
the moment you work for someone else's football,
Right.
you lose it,
Right.
according to legend and lore.
Right.
And I find it as helpful to your creative insights that you've shared, how the fuck to circumvent these waters.
Well, there are many ways, and it's very hard, and there's no right way, and it depends who you're dealing with. But what I've come to realize, and I owe Will Smith a lot on this, and it's taken me a long time, is you're a studio exec, and I'm me, and we're having a meeting, and you say, you know what, we really don't need the scene. In the old days, I would say, you know what, I couldn't disagree more. Here's why we need the scene. Now I've come to realize, once I say I couldn't disagree more, you've got nowhere to go. You're already like this, or you're doing this. So now I say, I totally understand and appreciate and can see totally a version where we don't need the scene. So let me tell you what I thought this scene helped us do. Because I totally see how we cannot have the scene.
You get it.
And now by saying that, I'm inviting them to at least lean in and be on the same side to hear my point of view. And really it's taking me 9 or 10 features, however long it's taken, for me to understand that there's no advantage to start a sentence with, I couldn't disagree more. Because where do you go from there?
Right.
So
I wonder where Will learned it, because that's pretty powerful stuff.
it's very powerful. I mean, and Will is genuine. I mean, Will will not interrupt. Will let you speak until you're done, knowing that...
He has 7 reasons to interrupt.
Yeah, it has 7 reasons, and it's the dumbest idea, and we're not going to do it, but he'll let it get out there. Occasionally, his tell is this. When I see Will do that, I go, Will, just tell me, stop. Stop me and tell, because I'm wasting my time because you just did this. But for me, what I've come around to understand is most people are insecure, most people are concerned, most people are worried, most people have a point of view that is legitimate. And it's my job to hear their point of views and then help them understand. Like sometimes it's just that it's not in the script, but it's in my head. And then when they hear, oh, so the purpose of the scene is not, oh, it's going to be funny? Or, oh, so that's the only way for us to make that scene funny. There was a scene in Men in Black 3 that I wanted to shoot. We were done shooting everything, and I felt the movie wasn't funny enough. And there was a scene that starts with the funeral for Zed in Men in Black headquarters, and it wasn't getting laughs. And people kept saying, we got to lose the scene. And I kept saying, well, we can't lose the scene because it sets up the premise of Will being angry at Tommy. They said, but the scene's not funny. And I said, the scene's not funny because we've given them the punchline and not the setup. The scene is perfect. The problem with the scene is you need a scene earlier where Tommy says, Will says, listen, you got to tell me what your eulogy is going to be. And Tommy says, don't worry, it's going to be, I love the man, I respected him, everyone will be crying. Will says, listen, just tell me, I know you.
Yeah, I know.
And then you go to the scene, and Tommy says, I've known Zed for 20 years, and in all that time I've never had dinner with him, lunch with him, or did anything outside of work. Thank you very much. It wasn't funny in any of the previews because we hadn't set up. So I said, please. And the meeting started with them saying, we're not going to shoot that scene you want to shoot. But instead of me saying,
I couldn't.
I couldn't disagree more. I said, I totally understand why you think that scene doesn't do anything. That scene's not great. But actually, its purpose is to make that scene better. But I totally understand. And they let me shoot it. And that scene became funny because finally we had the setup to the punchline. And the old Barry would have said, I couldn't disagree more, wouldn't have shot it, and the whole movie would have started to unravel in terms of structure.
Based on that education.
Yes?
Based on
I'm still going to say like
based
that
on
to
that
you.
journey.
Yes?
And I'm going to feather in your love, appreciation, if not adoration, of Elmore Leonard.
Right.
Will you someday soon give Justified a chance?
Is it good?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, it's Elmore,
No,
it's Elmore Leonard A, B, and C.
Right.
And the series stays true to that, not just the pilot.
I will truly look at Justified.
All right. Well, again, just based on your evolution of, I will not watch anything but the Weather Channel, equals, I couldn't disagree with you more.
I accept that, and I'm there.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I have another tweet 5 for you, please. This one from Dan Palmer.
T5,
Dave Keckner.
T5 forever now.
We have a repeat at the very top. Did you put in the last of the 5 questions from Dan Palmer that you sent me? I don't know if that's in front of you.
The problem with the tweet 5s is there's always a lot of crossover.
No,
We're
but
gonna get a lot
the
of repeats.
5th question there, I was just
No,
wondering if you had a
I
hand in
didn't.
that. You did not.
I did not.
Okay.
That's why I picked it.
All right. I figured as much. All
So
right.
this is death is not an option again?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Ethan or Joel? I think we
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, depending.
absolutely. Be Cool or Addams Family Reunion?
Addams Family Values.
Yes. And Be Cool isn't the name.
No, it's a.
Be Cool was
name
the
of
sequel to Get
Get
Shorty,
Shorty, which you had nothing to do
well,
with, and
I'm a
then-
producer on it, but I
Oh.
had nothing to do with it. But The
Sorry.
Rock is brilliant in that.
That's.
So,
Yeah, he is. It's the smack of the ass and
Yeah.
the looking in the mirror.
yeah.
That was kind of the birth of The Rock being comedic.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was just defending the question is because and then Addams Family Reunion was a sequel made
Sequel.
with Tim Curry that.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
never saw it.
Yeah.
I think it was only on television.
So that was the connection there.
Legitimate.
And I didn't mean to say you had nothing to
Oh.
do with it. I apologize.
No.
I get it.
No, the explanation helps,
Yeah,
and thank you.
yeah.
J-Lo or Carla Gugino?
J-Lo.
Making Porn or Making Wild Wild West?
Wild Wild West, but that's a really good one.
David Paymer or Kevin Pollak? Not fair. You've only experienced one.
I've only so far experienced one, and he was lovely.
Yeah.
So, good luck.
Paymer.
That's my fiance chanting that.
Do you often
In
get
her
called
dreams.
for the same
Yes.
roles?
In her dreams,
You
I
just
am
did.
mistaken for David Paymer.
No.
No.
Paymer
No.
has way sadder eyes.
See?
You have happy
dancing eyes.
dancing eyes.
If I may.
They're lovely.
And
There
a
is a
California
thread.
Jew knows, as opposed
There is
to.
That's
a
right.
thread on IMDb saying that you two look very similar.
I don't see it.
Written by idiots.
Have you taken any jobs from Paymer? Because I have.
I don't think that's fair. Wow, Sammy.
True. Swear to God.
Celebrate
Why
that.
did you tell everybody how you
They
both
offered it
dressed
to Paymer. He
auditions
went,
at the same
I'd love to,
time?
but I'm busy. They went, all right, we'll go to Levine.
To answer our guest question, we did go up for a film together recently. I believe
sit here and clap.
is going to. They're going in a different direction.
Uh-huh.
It's not just what one is told, but in this case, given the African American nature of the actor,
see.
they are indeed.
I see.
Yeah, I love Paymer going all the way back to the In-Laws, which,
Yeah.
if we may discuss, are you familiar
Yeah.
with?
Yes, the original.
I find it. I had Alan Arkin here. I find it to be a perfect film of comedic delight
Right.
and a performance piece, soup to nuts.
Yeah.
I was shocked to hear the genesis of that film. It seemed to me a brilliant script.
Right.
That must have made its way to these incredible performers.
Yeah.
But in fact, Alan Arkin told us here that he saw Peter Falk on a talk show and had enough juice at Warner Brothers to call up and say, I want to do a movie with this guy. I just saw him on this talk show, and he's, he's very funny. I think we should do a picture together. And then
Very good, by the way.
that's me showing off. Well, let me ask you this, Barry, because I haven't even started yet on the other half.
Can you do Red Skeleton?
Oh, if only. Is that in your wheelhouse?
God bless.
Nice. Nice. I like the trail off.
Yeah.
The fadeaway jumper.
So, in-laws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, seemingly comedic lightning in a bottle.
Right.
So, when you come to the casting of Get Shorty, other than Sweetie's genius,
Yeah.
you've got chemistries
Right.
that need to be lightning in a bottle.
Right.
You can say, yes, Sweetie, that's a genius idea. Gene Hackman, arguably one of the most underappreciated comedic
Yep.
gods
Right.
in cinema history.
Right.
His performance in Get Shorty and his performance in The
Birdcage
Royal Tenenbaums
also.
and Birdcage, I have to
Right.
put in there as well. The trifecta of, well, this is a clinic.
Right.
How to be great in a
Right.
comedy without trying to be funny.
Yeah.
What is casting like for you on the film Get Shorty?
I'm taking a cruise. Sweetie and I have never been on a cruise. It's a Club Med cruise. We've never been on Club Med.
Will you
We've
go
never-
on one again?
Never.
Ever?
Never Club Med, never Bahamas, never a cruise.
Cruise, floating jail sentence.
And Sweetie gets sick. So we're in St. Martin to get on the cruise boat, and I've only brought a Ken Follett novel, which is like 800 pages, and until about 400, you have no idea what the plot is or anything. And if it's, I go, I can't go on the boat just with this. So in the newsstand is a paperback of Get Shorty. So I bring it with me. This is going to shock you.
Elmore Leonard.
Elmore Leonard, Get Shorty. I read the book, and the hero of the book is a guy named Chili Palmer, or eventually played by Travolta. I read the book. Sweetie now can't get out of bed because she's got diarrhea.
Uh-huh.
But let's just say she's sick.
Sure. Well, it's too late.
Yeah, good point. So I go, Sweetie, 'cause I know who the lead of this book is. Read this book and tell me who it is.
Knowing how brilliant she is at casting.
How brilliant she is at casting. And I've worked with this man. So I go, I'm not going to tell you who it is. Who do you see? She says, well, it's Danny.
She reads it and says...
It's Danny DeVito. And I go, exactly, because Danny DeVito is, for me, Get Shorty isn't about the film industry. It's about self-confidence. And if you have self-confidence, at the end of the day, you will rise to the top.
Well, that's the lesson that Chili Palmer teaches everyone he
That's
dates.
right, yeah. Don't say more than you have to, just, right. So
Let
she
me tell
says,
you how it's going
Danny.
to be. Is that the line? Let me tell you how it's going to be.
I mean, yeah, that's what that's what he says to
Several people.
several people. So she says, Danny. And I said, yeah, Danny. Now, actually, you would think that Danny would eventually play the role he did play, which is of the very short actor. But I saw him as Chili Palmer. Call up Danny, because I had shot through Mama from the train. I just read a book you should read. He said, all right, I'll read it. I'll produce it. You direct it. I said, great. He buys the rights. Hey, Barry, bought the rights. I said, what do you think about the book? He goes, I haven't read it yet. It'll be fine. So he buys the rights based on me saying to.
Slight validation.
We then get Scott Frank to write the script, and no one wants to make it. No studio wants to make it, because there's never been a successful Elmore Leonard movie up until that point. There had never been a movie about Hollywood that, was that whole inside thing. Can't get it made. And Danny says, let's have a table read, because I may decide not to be the lead anyway and so we do a table read, and at the table read is Gene Hackman, Dennis Farina, Danny played Chili, and he was great, played the lead. Delroy wasn't there, but there was, Samuel L. Jackson played. So we had this table read, and we left, and Sweetie said, this is so good. As long as you have Hackman and Farina, it doesn't matter if Danny doesn't do it.
Wow.
And then we eventually get the money, and that's a whole long story from MGM. They agreed to do it because a new guy comes in and wants to announce right away he's got a project.
With names.
With names. So Hackman says, I'm not doing it. It's a comedy, and I'm not funny. I go, that's exactly right. You only want one funny person in a comedy. You don't want to have this comedy, except for It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, of course. But anyway, well, by the way, Arkin and Falk is another example.
Right. No, he's playing straight man all
He's
the way
playing it
through,
straight.
and hilarious at the same
Yeah.
time.
So anyway, so we eventually get the green light, but we have to get someone to play Chili Palmer. And they give me a list of all the people, and the first one is Warren Beatty.
Sure.
I live on the East Coast. Warren is at the Bel Air Hotel because it's soon after the earthquake, and he's been living there for like a year. So he says, yeah, fly out. I'm staying at the Bel Air. Why don't you stay at the Bel Air? We'll meet on Friday. So I go, okay, what time Friday? He says, well, call me when you get in. I said, well, you want to pick a time? He goes, no, you'll call me.
Uh-oh.
So I fly in Thursday night, wake up Friday. Hi, it's Barry. You want to get together? I'm here. Yeah, I've got some things going on, but call me later. Or I'll call you later. So the first day, Friday, I literally stay in my room at the Bel Air.
Watching the Weather Channel.
Watching the Weather Channel. The second day, Saturday morning, hi, Warren. Yeah, well, let's do it sometime today. Okay, do you know when? No, but we'll figure it out. So I go, I'm going to be at the pool. So at least I can do that.
It's a destination.
So now I'm at the pool all day Saturday. Sunday, I call Warren. I say, hey, Warren, I'm going to leave tonight, so we really should get together. He goes, all right, let's have lunch. So we have lunch, and Warren says, I love the script, and I'll do it if you can answer one question. Okay. He says, Chili Palmer is not that far up in the mob ranks. He's a money guy, a money, betting guy, a money launderer. No, what do you call
Bookie.
the guy? Bookie. He's like a bookie. I go, yeah. He goes, okay, so how does a guy who looks like me only be a bookie in the mob? Wouldn't I be higher up given that I look as handsome as I do? Hmm? And I said, here's the thing. I live in East Hampton, Long Island, and we have a plumber named John Ward who's gorgeous. This man is the best looking man I've ever seen except for you. But he's a plumber. Sometimes it just happens. And he says, I understand that, but I look like me.
And I'm going to be in the movie.
And so I said, I didn't think of that. You're absolutely right. Thank you so much for meeting me. Goodbye. And then, of course, that started the phone calls because it's like when the beautiful high school girl rejects you, you're not supposed to accept that rejection, but you're supposed to. But I said, let's move on. And he kept then trying to get back in, but I didn't want to waste time. And then Stacy Scher, who's one of the producers on Get Shorty, also produced Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction hadn't come out yet, so John was only known from the talking dog. Floundering. And she said, what about Travolta? And Sweetie said, perfect.
Wow.
So
I mean, if you get back into the timing of this, and I'm glad you mentioned prior to Pulp Fiction,
right,
there was no one but Sweetie saying perfect.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I met Travolta, Danny and the writer and I met Travolta, and John turned us down. And then we got Quentin, who had worked with Travolta, obviously said, and who loves all Elmore Leonard stuff. Quentin called Travolta and said, don't turn this down. This is a perfect movie to do.
Who knew to go to Quentin as a way to get John back?
Stacy Scher, because they also produced Pulp Fiction.
Right.
Stacy and Danny, so they went to Quentin. Quentin went to, because at this point Travolta is totally trusting Quentin.
It's a comeback of historical
proportion. So we got Travolta, we got Hackman. I convinced him to do it. Delroy Lindo and Farina, who was extraordinary.
James Gandolfini.
Gandolfini and I had problems. Gandolfini said, if I'm a stuntman, playing a stuntman, I should have a North Carolina accent.
Uh-oh.
And I said, no, you don't want to do that. He goes, why not? I said, because you won't talk fast enough. He said, what do you mean? I said, you're going to do the whole Southern accent thing, and that has a certain lilt and a certain thing, and it's going to slow you down. Don't do it. He said, I really need it. I said, really? He said, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll talk fast. Never talked fast enough. Came to me after the show was over and said, you were right, I made a terrible mistake. But he was fine, but he should never have talked that slowly.
Yeah, it's weird because that's the exact region that I was thinking for.
Oh, there you go.
For the
No,
Beverly
you
Hills
don't want
Cop.
to do that.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's, regards to Warren Beatty, who, in a sea of similarity, stands apart almost every time as an original performer on screen. Were you around for any of the Michigas on Misery that Rob went through with Warren?
I know that there was Michigas with Warren and Michigas with Bette Midler to play the role. In fact, Kathy was my idea because Sweetie and I had seen Kathy in Night Mother on Broadway.
Tom Moore directed.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that predated me a little bit.
Because Rob did confide that Warren was amazing at a hole in that script, and he kept referring to it as Bad Watchman. Bad Watchman. He kept saying, repeating over and over again about the character of Paul Sheldon.
Right.
And his need to sneak around.
Right.
And how much tension would be real based on Kathy Bates' character being a bad watchman. If she were a bad watchman, there's no tension.
Right. Rob gives Warren a lot of credit in terms of developing it. Yeah, I know that. Well, Warren's pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, Reds is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There seems to be better lessons learned from failure, but I suggest...
No. Go on.
No, please continue.
I couldn't disagree more.
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I suggest that even more entertaining, certainly for this venue, are those magically awkward, potentially horrifying and humiliating experiences that only when added a dash of time become the funniest thing. And I decided to try to collect them.
Okay.
From my fellow creative folk. Somewhere along your travels, if anything comes to mind, of organic awkwardness. I mean, so far what you've said seems to be, in terms of an otherwise awkward situation, like learning how to circumvent the studio and that sort of thing. But you've now worked with a lot of heavyweights in terms of the acting peoples, and you've made it clear to me prior to this and for our cameras that the faster, flatter is the path to nirvana. And there must be some along the way, like James, who you didn't have the right sentence the way you did for Michael.
Right.
That made it clear. Because when we were first meeting in that rehearsal that we started with, and you said faster, flatter always, and told me the story of Michael, which I thought was fantastic, my response was, aha, you did just make it real easy to embrace your needs.
Right.
And now I don't just feel like the monkey who wants that treat.
Right.
What I really find is let's collaborate, and I love to be directed. I'm a comedian first. Those are my instincts. I've been forced to become a dramatic actor by happenstance and opportunity. I've learned from the greats on set, watching them do what they do. I've developed instincts, but I prefer to be told exactly what to do. So for me, faster, flatter is specific and succinct, and I embrace it. When you found the key that opened it up for Michael and you told that story, there was something in me that still went, wow, that is magical. That is magical if you can actually wrap your brain around
Why?
the reason that character talks faster and flatter.
Right.
Because if everyone talks faster and flatter,
It's better.
well, obviously.
Right?
They'll bring their own chi
Right.
to it anyways, so it
Yeah,
won't
yeah.
all be the same register of fast and
Right.
flatter. So have we had awkward moments of discussing the?
Yes, I have. I'm sure discussing it with you on the set will be an awkward one down the road.
Oh, no.
No, but
It won't. In fact, just this. That's it. That's all I'll need.
we'll need. And the truth is, for some reason, first of all, when you watch stuff on television or in a movie theater, and it may be because the screen is so big, and even in TV it's gotten bigger,
Oh yeah.
I think that when you and I are talking, we overlap each other, we talk faster, and that what happens is on the set that actors try to find acting moments
Yeah.
that wouldn't exist if we weren't acting. We would look away. And so for me, part of the faster, flatter thing is truly to get some of the acting. I have a real acting radar, and I don't like to watch acting.
Yeah.
I like to watch characters and story and like reality of performance.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big fan of watching the acting.
The process occur in front of your eyes.
Yes, exactly. So on the set of Men in Black, the first Men in Black, we started, for 2 weeks we were shooting without Will. Will was finishing up Independence Day, which we had hired him on before Men in Black, but he had to do that one first. But we had hired him based on Sweetie liking Fresh Prince. And I had liked Tommy. The first day on the set of Men in Black 1, Tommy Lee Jones, knowing he's in a comedy, is talking to a creature in the Sonora Desert that has hands and flippers and is speaking in an alien tongue. And Tommy, on the first day, first take, his line to this alien creature is, the line is written is, "That's enough, Mikey. Put up your hands and all your flippers." And Tommy, we're rolling, and Tommy says, "That's enough, Mikey. Put up your hands and all your flippers." Cut. Say, Tommy, I think it's funnier if you don't acknowledge that put up your flippers is funny. You're a Men in Black, you see this all the time. It's funny that you're even understanding what he's saying because he's speaking alien gibberish. So I think the comedy comes about from not acknowledging that put up your flippers is funny, because that way the audience says, oh, that's funny, right? Tommy looks at me like that, and I know it's going to be 18 weeks. It ended up being 20 weeks of pure hell between Tommy and myself. And every day, this became GI. I would say, Tommy, just more government issue, just government issue, not funny, not funny. I would get calls from his manager, his agent at that time, Michael Black, saying, you're trying to make Tommy not be funny because you only want Will to be funny. And again, I said, I'm telling you, George Burns is funnier than Gracie Allen. Tommy shouldn't be funny. No, you just love Will and you hate Tommy. It's not the case. And for 20 weeks...
It's shocking that an agent didn't understand the context of comedy. If I may. Break the Will Smith rule and interrupt you.
No, that's very good. So for 20 weeks, Tommy thought I truly didn't know how to direct him, right? He sees the movie. He loves the movie. He loves his performance. And at the press junkets and all that, everyone is asking Tommy, how did you get to be so funny? And Tommy's answer, and I love him for this, and we're good friends, is the secret to being funny is stand next to Will Smith and do whatever Barry Sonnenfeld tells you to do. So he totally,
Holy shit.
in fact, Will tell you that Will's performance in Men in Black is totally my direction. I truly, I had a way I wanted that movie to be, and I sat on both of them. But Tommy is brilliant in that movie. So now we're doing Get Shorty. And Hackman is not having a good time. He's uncomfortable doing the comedy, and he doesn't know if he is funny. And of course, he's funny because he's not being funny. We're at the premiere, and Hackman taps me at the premiere in New York, where the main premiere was out here, but we had a small one in New York. He taps me, at which point my entire arm turns to ice and shatters on the floor. And he says, look, I just want you to know, as soon as the lights go down, I'm leaving, because I hate watching myself. I hate myself. He says he wears a hair shirt because he just really dislikes himself as a person, a performer. One day he said, I almost didn't come to work today, and I said, how come? And he said, because I accidentally saw like a minute of the Poseidon Adventure, which he's in, and I almost didn't get out of bed today. So he said, I came here because they asked me to come to the premiere. I'm not going to watch this movie. I can't. And he had never seen it. The lights come up, an hour and 40 minutes later, the tap, the hand shatters again, and it's Hackman. And he says, we have to talk. And I go, okay. And he takes me in now there's a party going on. And he takes me, he says, I was going to write a letter to you, but I'm just going to tell you right to your fucking face. So I said, oh, okay. He goes, the movie's really good. And I said, well, thanks, Gene. He goes, shut up and listen to me. He said, the movie's really good, but here's the thing. And I said, what? He said, if I had a fucking clue that you knew what you were doing, I could have been so much better. And I said,
Greatest compliment
yeah,
ever.
right. I said, you were, well, thanks, Gee. I don't know, how do you, and then he walked off. But I have a way of, you know, I don't sound like a director. I'm not going to talk to you a lot about, you know, where did you go to high school? Where did your character go to high school?
Thank God.
You know, I think if you can figure out, and if you can say to me, you know, hey, listen, do you think that, what do you think his insecurities are? Is there anything that I worry about, or do I have like ADD or something? That stuff we can talk about, and I'll say, as long as you don't start acting to the props, great. If you want to do that, that's great. But I don't do a lot of directing the way, you know. So I think Hackman just thought I was a fool, and I think Tommy did too.
Right.
But it's okay, because their performances are kind of great.
Well, their performances are amazing. I'm extremely fortunate, and now even more excited, that you come from a school that I was actually weaned on in my first real movie, which was Barry Levinson's Avalon, because
Right.
Barry himself, starting out as a stand-up comedian, and to this day thinks like a comedian and hates, as you do, if not loathes, seeing actors act.
Right.
And in my first drama, and there's a moment where I get the part after screen testing, and it's unbelievable, and everybody else in the film is theater trained,
Right.
and I'm a stand-up comedian who auditioned for everything. 2 weeks prior to that, I think I auditioned for Full House and would have killed to get the part. So I get the part. I'm freaked out. I can't believe I got it. I say to my then manager, you know, I got this. It's exciting, but I'm intimidated by the dramatic acting. He says, well, he also represented Paul Reiser, and said, you know, when Paul did Aliens, he worked with this drama coach. If you want, I can set it up.
Right.
I said, that'd be amazing. Great. Let me just make sure Barry doesn't mind me getting
Yeah.
the script to the drama coach. So I say to Barry Levinson, can I get the script to the drama coach? He helped Paul Reiser, who Barry had worked with on Diner, of course. And Barry said, oh, no, no, no. Oh, no. No, no. You're the guy. Just be the guy. You came in, you were the guy. And I don't want somebody telling you how not to be the guy because it's more dramatic.
Right.
No, no, no. That can't happen. Just say the lines. Look, a great beginning of a career in Steven Soderbergh's first film, Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
Right.
James Spader is
Right.
acting his fucking ass off.
Right.
He's great, but it's driving Barry crazy because the movie comes out while we're shooting and everyone goes to see it. And he says, I don't understand. Before he speaks, he looks up, he looks to
Right.
his right, and then he looks back at the person and says a line.
Right.
Nobody talks like that. You hear me talking to you now, I'm not even breathing to think. I'm just going forward. And then when you have something to say, you come in over top of me, and that's the way people communicate to
Right.
each other. And I was weaned on this. And then the other theatric trained actors on the movie, Joan Plowright, Almond Mueller-Stahl, ridiculous. The great Lou Jacoby. Everybody wants to rehearse. Barry says, oh, no, no, no rehearsal. Just go out to dinners, you're a family, go get to know each other. Have lunches, dinners, and go hang out. And then on the set, everyone will know their lines.
Right.
And then I called him the Phantom because he'd say, okay, you guys are at this table, it's round, you have your coffee, 2 phones, and there's a computer here, and he'd walk over to the monitor, action. And then we'd act the scene out, and at the monitor, and he'd cut, and he'd come over and say, that was astounding. That was astounding. There's a taped video of a DVD of Bobby Slayton, and then there's a cup, and then you'll keep talking, and he goes over the monitor. Action. No direction. Never. Any direction.
Really?
Yeah, just weird. So that said to me, with no experience, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
Apparently
yeah.
it's okay. But eventually everyone found their rhythms by bringing forward their instincts in a spontaneous conversational setting.
So was his direction more about his writing? Was he more comfortable as a writer
He's
than
great
a
at
director?
writing and great at casting.
Right.
I think that ends
Right.
up being the brilliance. And then he hires an amazing cinematographer who he argues with most of the time, Alan Davio.
Right.
As
good as, yeah.
Yeah, Avalon and then Bugsy.
Right.
And he would say, Alan, he's not ready.
No, Alan's never ready.
It doesn't matter if he's lighting a football or a football stadium. It's 3 hours.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah. So, because Steiner was like a perfect movie.
It's just guys talking.
It's just guys talking. Yeah. Does that include the Maryland fried chicken? Was one of my favorite lines. Anyway, you had to be there. Do you want to ask me how I went from being a cinematographer to a director?
I very much would like to hear that, sir.
I was shooting Misery, and we were 2 weeks from being done, and Sweetie came out to visit me, because we live on the other coast, and Sweetie and I were in bed, staying in an 11 room at the Four Seasons Hotel.
An 11 room?
Yeah, it's like slightly bigger. You know, that chain of rooms, 7-Eleven, 8-Eleven, 9-Eleven, it goes all the way up to like 17, I think.
Okay.
So, but we were in an 11 room. You got a much bigger closet.
All right.
And we were watching the Indianapolis 500.
I'll say.
And there was a phone call, and it said, Scott Rudin has just left a script for you downstairs, and he wants you to read it and meet him at Hugo's in 2 hours. So I asked them to send up the script, and this is a script for Addams Family. So the Indy 500 wasn't going that well. So I read the script and then went to Hugo's, where they have spaghetti and scrambled eggs and.
Sure.
Yeah.
Santa Monica Boulevard.
Yeah, and so I went to Hugo's, and Rudin said, I want you to direct this movie. And I said, well, here's what's wrong with it. I'm not a director. I've never directed. I don't know how to direct actors. Thing is, this is stupid. It's too much like the TV show and not enough like the cartoons, and this has to happen. And he said, for all those reasons, you should be the director. So if I can get you the job, will you do it? And I said, okay. And then I remember meeting with Orion,
Yeah.
which Rudin and I bankrupted, making Addams Family, and I got hired. But I was not someone who was looking to direct or sort of saying, someday when I direct this movie. But because of film school, which I hated and tell everyone not to go to, I always felt the cinematographer, his role is being the friend of the director. And, it's as important to ask, did they have like more energy before lunch?
Yeah.
Or, just little questions like that. I did, except with the Coens where we did it together, I did all the shot lists on all the movies I shot. And I think Rudin, because of my work on Big, and he was the head of production of Fox at that time, and Raising Arizona, and he visited the set from time to time, felt that once he couldn't get Tim Burton or Terry Gilliam to direct Addams Family, he'd rather try someone new and never used before than to go to sort of a comedy director.
He wanted visual.
He wanted visual, and he wanted a style, and I've always sort of been a stylist a little bit, but it just happened. And my biggest concern was how to talk to actors. Because as a DP, often the actors are your enemy.
Yeah.
They rehearse it this way, but then when they're on the set, now they want to stand, or they don't know their lines, so they walk this distance. Then they learn their lines in the makeup camper, and they're walking faster, but you've only lit to here.
Right.
So what I did is I looked at all the other DPs that became directors. Gordon Willis had directed Windows, Fraker, The Legend of Lone Ranger. John Alonzo, who shot Chinatown, directed something called FM. And in each case, they took their camera operator and made them DP, which meant they really didn't want to give up the camera.
Yeah.
I felt if I was going to do this, I had to get a cinematographer so brilliant that it would force me away from the camera, and I wouldn't be able to say to him, shouldn't the 10K go over there?
What a tremendous instinct, if I may, because it makes 100% sense instantly.
Right.
But how is someone that self-aware? I mean, that's...
You look at all the other DPs who literally only directed one movie and then couldn't get a career.
They ultimately did not succeed.
And I'm not going to make any money, and it's going to be a year of my life, so I better do it and try to do it well. So I hired Owen Roizman, who shot, French Connection and The De Niro. Anyway, a bunch of Academy Award-winning movies.
Yeah.
And I said, look, Owen, I won't tell you how to light. I still want to design the shots. Is that okay? And he said, fine with me. And I said, the only thing I'll tell you about lighting is I don't want to get involved at all, except to say I would love it if Angelica Houston had her own motivated light. I don't care if she's by the window, outside in the sun, that she always has like a Harrell photography, beautiful look, independent of where the light really should be coming from. And he said, I get it, I love it, yes. And Angelica looked beautiful in the movie. Owen shot it. He was perversely slow, but did a phenomenal job.
Perversely slow.
And I had Dee Dee Allen, the single greatest film editor who cut Bonnie and Clyde and Reds and created modern editing. And the secret for me is surround yourself with people much better than you, because in success, you're going to get all the credit anyway.
100%.
So don't be so insecure that you want to have a guy who you can push around for the production design or get phenomenal. I mean, we have Bo Welsh doing our TV show, who's been nominated for many Academy Awards and all that, because you want the best.
Right.
So that's how it happened, and it did force me to hang out with actors, and I realized how amazing they are and how hard it is to act and how joyful it is to be with those actors. So it changed my life, obviously.
There's one huge movie star I've worked with who, to the other cast, if not everyone but the director, is historically charming and fantastic. But to the director, for his own reasons, there is a challenge that goes down day one. And the directors who stand up to him and say, this is the way it's going to be, let me tell you how it's going to be, everything goes great.
Right.
And the directors who think they'll get fired if they stand up to him and don't, everything goes horribly every single day.
Well, what's amazing about that story is when I hired Tommy Lee Jones to do Men in Black, and you heard that I did not back down when he looked at me with those eyes the first day, the Steadicam operator, who I used on many movies, had worked with Tommy on many movies. He did the Siege movies, and anyway, he did a lot of movies, and I said, tell me what Tommy's like. And this camera operator, Steve St. John, said, look, at some point Tommy will come to you with a couple of props and say, this weekend I was out and I thought maybe I should have one of these props in my hands. And this operator said, if you say to Tommy, I don't care which ones you like, you're dead for the movie. He said, if you say, even if you don't care, say that one. Because Tommy doesn't want to hear, you don't care, what do you think, Tommy? And Tommy came to me early, and I said, that.
He came with two props.
Two props, and I said, that. And just on the set, I said, nope, do it flatter. If I had said, Tommy, can we talk about this? Because I'm not sure that, you should, I would have been dead.
Yeah.
And all anyone wants is for someone to make decisions.
Be in charge.
Be in charge. The prop guy doesn't want you to say, I don't care. he's not going to go to the truck and say, damn it, he picked the red folder. But if you say, I don't care, now I'm the prop guy and now I got to think about it. I'm going to, on the day, pick the wrong folder and you're going to yell at me anyway. I don't want that.
Yeah.
And also the director, by making all these, as we talked about, it's only the accumulation of all these things, tiny little things. Don't look down at the props. Talk faster. You know what? Let's not have you hold that thing.
Yeah.
Suddenly it becomes a singular thing in terms of tone. I mean, the hardest thing is tone. I mean, getting that right. You know, people always think action, adventure, comedy, but they sort of hate each other. Action fucks up the comedy. Comedy makes the action not seem real. So it's a real, tone is a balancing act. And you look at some of these movies and you go, oh my God, they changed the tone on us.
Yeah.
And it gets real. I'm trying to remember a movie I saw recently where suddenly the tone was like really not what you might expect. Actually, Jack and the Giant Slayer is interesting because I found that movie technically like really good, and Stanley Tucci was really funny, and it's amazing to look at, but I never got engaged. And I think part of it is because the director who you worked with, didn't you work with Brian?
Yeah.
There was a strange distance from the characters, and I wanted to so be engaged in that story, and I couldn't, even though it was beautiful and all that, because the people were kind of, I don't know, it's a weird thing, and I've never met Brian, I don't know what his personality was, but it seemed to be a little bit removed, and I really wanted to be in there.
Yeah.
And I couldn't.
Yeah, the tone of comedy and action and all of that. I mean, the first Beverly Hills Cop movie, 48 Hours as well. What was the one I said that Peter Hyams did, Jamie, with the song was stuck in your head and it will be again? Running Scared.
Right.
It is an incredibly hard combination to get correct.
Well, the tone of the first Beverly Hills Cop movie I found slightly, I loved the movie.
It's sliding.
But when Eddie Murphy's friend gets killed in the hallway near the beginning of the movie, which is what makes him go out to L.A., it's so brutal, it's so real,
Yeah.
that you're not sure what the tone of the movie is. And I found that almost disconcerting. I'm not saying comedy should be funny, but I found the tone of the first one very slightly
Dark.
dark.
Yeah. Which I felt set up for the comedy to be funnier because it was so based in reality.
Right,
The story was so dark, heavy, and intense
right,
that I needed comic relief.
right.
And I embraced it before it even started.
Right. And Eddie brilliantly never lets you forget that he's not, you always know Eddie is good, that he's a cop, that he has a mission, and even when he's being funny, he's still totally inside that story.
Right.
And when he's a cop, you totally believe he's a cop, the way he pulls a gun or anything. And he's never suddenly stopping the story and say, watch this funny bit.
Yeah, even though those bits happen,
Yeah.
that's not the
Yeah,
sense.
and that's hard to do. It's really hard to pull off.
Well, good luck.
Yeah, thanks. Well, we're not that funny.
Nice.
Nice.
Before we go into Enchanted, Disney freak, was there some question I thought I remembered that you might have stumbled across or had based on one of Barry's films? Maybe it was Get Shorty or something.
I was talking to my sister. I was talking to my sister on the way here, and one of my most vivid memories of we went to see Get Shorty together because my sister's 10 years older than I am, and she's the one that like always took me to see like Pulp Fiction and Usual Suspects and everything. But we were almost going to be late to see Get Shorty because we got stuck behind a school bus, and I'm like, Dad, I was asking her, I'm like, do you remember this? This is what I take from this. Do you remember? And you're like, I can't get around the school bus. I'm going to be late.
Yeah, it was horrifying, the possibility of being late to see the film.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what I took from it.
Enchanted?
I had very little to do with it. I had a business partner at Disney. Oh, thanks. You're the best. Named Barry Josephson. And
Yeah, I remember Barry. We worked together on Ricochet.
Yeah, well, Josephson found that property, and it took us years to get it made. And Amy Adams was fantastic in it, and I truly believe I could not have. That's a movie that I look at and go, I could not have directed that movie to sort of embrace that world and pull it off. Talk about tone. No one is winking at the camera.
No.
Amy totally believes that she is this person.
Right.
And the consistency of tone and pulling off that world in real New York is so amazing, and he did such an amazing job.
Yeah, don't play the comedy.
Don't play the comedy.
Yeah. Don't even play what we think the reality is. Just play it real.
Just play it real. I know, and I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. All right. I'm going to reintroduce you to your greatest fear in life, which is the Larry King game.
Okay.
I cannot thank you for the last 2 hours and 23 minutes. I know it seems like only 3 hours.
No, it's been great. I'm talking about myself.
It's horrifying. All right, so the joy of the Larry King game is Larry's ability, before he goes to the phones, to share something about himself that no one wants to hear. It's personal, it's about him, it's on a complete need-to-care basis for the rest of us, and he's somehow oblivious to that, oblivious to the fact that no one wants to hear this.
Right.
That was sort of the beauty of the concept when Jamie, our head writer, came up with this game. So, shall I do the prototype for you with the rules?
Sure.
Bad Larry King impression, so therefore it could be anything. Story about himself that no one wants to hear. Go to the phones. The name of the city should be funny sounding if possible. The prototype is this. Thanksgiving. I like to teabag the gravy boats before the guests arrive. Schenectady, hello. So again, the prototype suggests bad Larry King impression, information nobody wants, funny sounding city. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And should it be that short?
You know, or not.
Okay.
We've had every which possible way. That is your camera.
Okay.
When in fact you feel the comfort, the Larry is not afraid to look into the lens.
Okay. Well, we're here with Kevin Pollak. And before we start, Kevin, I know you'll have an opinion about this, but I remember the second time I passed the kidney stone, which was in Scottsdale, Arizona, when I finally found out that they would have to well, before we start with Kevin Pollak, and I know he'll have a very specific opinion on this, but just seeing Kevin reminds me about the second time I passed a kidney stone. Not the first time where I crawled up the steps of St. Vincent's Hospital nude, saying, give me morphine or kill me until I passed out. This was the second time where they actually had to operate. They take a micro knife and put it up your penis and then dislodge it from the uterus and then with a micro basket pull it out. But anyway, that's not the point of this story, Kevin. What I think you'll find interesting is that when you awake from the operation, you find that there's a catheter in your penis, and the way it's held in there, as I'm sure you know, is the catheter is attached to a balloon, and they inflate the balloon. That way the needle, the catheter, can't come out because it's being held in by this inflated balloon. Well, and I'm sure you've experienced this, Kevin, but when the crew, the Grips and Electrics, heard that there was a catheter in my penis while I was in Scottsdale shooting Raising Arizona, they immediately all chipped in and hired a stripper because they thought it would be funny. Well, you can imagine. So there I am lying in bed when a woman in a pink gorilla suit and a boombox comes in, and I go, hello, why are you here? By the way, Kevin, the way they help you not try to, spasm out the ureter. Now, admittedly, it's held in by the balloon, but they give you these pills that say on the pills, and I quote, Uraspaz, U-R-A-S-P-A-S. So you're already feeling bad, and this woman comes in with the pink gorilla suit, And I say, hi, who are you? And she says, I'm Kiki. And I go, hi, Kiki, I think you're in the wrong room. She says, no, Rusty and Dennis and Kenny have hired me to strip for you. And I say, well, they think it's funny for me to get an erection while I have a catheter in my penis, but please, you can't do this. She said, well, I've already been hired. And I say, well, why don't we just pretend that you did the striptease and now you can leave? Right, but they've already paid me. I know, but we'll pretend. So, Kevin, eventually I convinced this lovely woman to leave. I don't even want her to come back when I'm feeling better. Get rid of her. Nurse comes back, says we're ready to take out the ureter. So, of course, they deflate the balloon, remove the ureter, and this is where I think you'll probably have an interesting take on this. After they remove the balloon and the catheter, the first time you go to urinate, and first of all, your penis is incredibly small and shriveled up because it's so angry at you for letting this happen. Anyway, Kevin, the first time you urinate, and I can't wait to hear your story about this, you fart through your penis. Kev?
Oh, no more calls. Pencils down. We have a winner.
Wow.
Yes. Wow is indeed the review.
I don't know. There it is.
Perfection. I
Okay.
couldn't ask for less. Thank you endlessly for your time.
It's truly a pleasure.
And your insight and your candidness on all of it.
Did you say inside or inside?
Both.
Okay.
I meant both.
Yeah, okay.
I might have only said
Thanks,
one.
sweetheart.
All right. Thank you. Sit there uncomfortably while I wrap things up for the folks at home
Okay,
and around
excellent.
shore to shore. Ship to ship. Enjoy yourselves with the rest of your St. Paddy's Day. Keep it green and real. And look for us in the coming weeks with Gillian Jacobs, she of the community, and so many other wonderful things. Enjoy us on the Earwolf. What was that, Sammy?
He's in Burt Wonderstone, right?
Burt Wonderstone, right the hell now, if you're at the motion pictures and you've come home and found this.
And we took a class together in high school.
We're going to hear about how she and Jamie actually went to high school together.
We
We're
did
going to
not
see.
go to high school together. We went to separate high schools, but we took a theater class at the Pittsburgh Public Theater together our senior year.
Ah!
We did
Well,
not go to the same high school.
more on that and less correction in the next episode when Gillian is actually here. Don't forget to tell everyone you've ever met to subscribe to us on the YouTube. Let us what you think about the whole damn thing, the move to Earwolf, everything. Write to us at contact@kevinpollexchatshow.com. We love hearing from you. We want your involvement. Kenny, Dr. Chen, Sammy, Jamie here in the studio, thank you as always. In the outer portions, we thank Josh, Justin, and Jason, the 3 J's of victory, 2 of which not hungover. Thank you, Angie, filling in for our own Samantha Ward, Angie Johnson, if you will. Want to thank, very strong name, for a cat as well.
David, our intern.
Angie Johnson. David Mandel.
Oh man, you missed David doing he was busting some moves to Return of the Mac.
Maybe we'll get him on camera next show to show some of these moves. I don't think so. I guess that's it for now. So until next time, and as always, get out of my face.